Good evening. I call this June 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Morrisville Town Council to order. This meeting is being streamed on the Town of Morrisville website. On June 25th, a video of this meeting will be updated to www.townofmorrisville.org/government/live-video. Tonight's meeting includes 3 public hearings. In-person public comment will be allowed for tonight's meeting. Public address and public hearing comments were also accepted from 9 a.m. through 3 p.m. today. If time remains after in-person public speakers, comments received from interested parties that include a full name and address will be read verbatim during the public hearing for up to 3 minutes each. For a total of 30 minutes, Town Council may choose to suspend some or all these rules if so desired. Tonight's Sergeant-at-Arms is Sergeant Chad Penland, who has been a law enforcement officer for 21 years and is currently assigned to the Field Operations Division. Invocation tonight is by Councilmember Steve Rao.
Thank you, Mayor. Please bow our heads for my invocation. As we gather this evening for our council meeting, we are so grateful for the opportunity to come together as an engaged, diverse, bipartisan coalition of elected leaders and citizens to lead an all-American city, the town of Morrisville, a shining example of our great American democracy at work, an example for the entire nation and world to see. With immigrants from all over the world calling Morrisville home, all of us can truly experience the world in our all-American city. Let us always remember the hard work of previous councils and citizens who have grown a real stop to one of the most innovative, vibrant small towns in North Carolina. We are also grateful for the contributions of our Shiloh community to the town of Morrisville and our strong connection to Black history. In the midst of a global pandemic, as we continue to experience the disease of racism, racial bias, and political division, the likes of which we have never seen before, the town of Morrisville is an everlasting reminder of the unlimited potential of American democracy. What can happen when cities and towns work with our citizens to provide the highest quality of life for our residents, and that we can still be united while at the same time celebrating our diversity. Our greatest connections are not our devices, but each other. Our true GPS is not our iPhone or Google Maps, but the light and love of our hearts, which will always lift us out of the darkness. We pray that the light of democracy, our great town, will burn brightly for future generations. It can always remind our nation and world of what makes an all-American city: unity, diversity, innovation, civic engagement, resilience, and purpose. We are grateful for everyone who makes this happen every day. We pray for our staff and council, and may God bless our troops wherever they may be. Amen.
Amen. All who are able, please stand and join in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we adopt tonight's agenda, Town Council policy is to review and ensure there are no conflicts of interest or appearance of conflict of interest with any items on the agenda. Do any council members have anything they'd like to share at this time? Okay. Is there a motion and second to adopt this evening's agenda?
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously 7-0. There are 4 items on this evening's consent agenda. Approval of the May meeting minutes. We met a lot of times in May. Is there a motion and second to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That also carries unanimously 7-0. Now at item 8, administrative reports. There are 2 administrative reports tonight, a quarterly capital projects update and an ERP system update. Administrative reports are provided as information-only items unless council has any questions. Are there any questions on either of these items?
I have a question.
Okay. Mark Spagnoli is the first one, or Nancy Emsley and Chuck Bryan for the second.
I have a question relating to the ERP system.
Okay. If Ms. Emsley or Mr. Bryan could come to the microphone, please.
I would just like to recognize that Mark Spagnoli is in the audience, and we thank him for sharing that report as well.
And Mayor,
I'm
Okay.
the only one with
Rodney Watkins is also here with the ERP team.
Yeah. Any of you who wish to come on up, was that
Yeah,
purpose?
I didn't know if any of the council had questions to the first item, but
Well, this is fine.
great. Thank you so much for all of your effort with the ERP system update. I'd just like to know how far we've progressed, when we started, and when you anticipate completing the projects.
Well, we started way back when, in 2015, when, in 2016, when we kicked off the project. And it was a townwide project kickoff with all the management team. And we have gone through quite a journey. I put in the presentation a nice recap that showed everything that happened in 2016, 17, and so on. And so I don't have that in front of me. I've left it back at my chair, but it has been an absolute pleasure to lead this project. And oh, thank you. God bless you, Rodney. And so so as I said, we started off with the kickoff, and then we also worked with a third-party vendor for a third-party review of what we had discovered as far as identifying through our needs assessment survey. I added Chuck to the team, but in 2017 and 2018, we actually kicked off the Energov and Munis financials, developed a strategic plan for implementation. We actually went live with our financials in December of 18. And then in 19, we added Rodney to our team as another project manager. We found that it was a lot for Chuck and I to do with Energov. Its configuration was very, very different compared to Munis, which was much more finite. And because you would expect that with a financial system, you don't want to have a lot of different parameters. So we added Rodney to the team, and we actually went live with Energov fire operational and permitting and inspections in both September and December of 2019. We went live with planning and engineering with Energov and code enforcement in January of 2020. We then went live with our payroll and ExecuTime and the employee self-service in April 2020. And since we've been going live in 2021, we've really switched from an implementation to an operations mode, and our project managers have really fully transitioned from a project manager to more of a system administrative role. We continue to do testing, and we continue to have, for ongoing, we continue to do end user training and customer service training. We continue to do assessments. And we sure as heck will be implementing some new modules as well. But it's been as you said, it's really been a pleasure to lead this. And I'm very I get a little emotional because it's been a long train. As you remember, we had the trains as our vision board, and we had the three separate trains all leaving the station, and they finally arrived. So I couldn't have done this without these two gentlemen.
Well, you've done an amazing job, and your entire team has transformed all of the systems in the town. And I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Morrisville is one of the leading cities in the state of North Carolina that has implemented such, connected Munis modules so that we can end-to-end kind of do more analysis and really understand our customers a little bit better. So.
And we have been approached several times to be a reference, to talk with other folks that are thinking about Munis financials, they're thinking about ExecuTime, they're thinking about employee self-service, they're thinking about Energov. So we constantly are having those conversations, and we really feel that we've been a leader in that regard. And there aren't that many, as you said, there are not that many municipalities in North Carolina that have that flagship, that have all those features under one roof. And the fact that it's a hosted environment is even better because it provides us the security and the redundancy that we need. So it's been as I said, it's been a wonderful journey.
Well, I also like to just thank you for everything that you've been doing, and you were very thoughtful in engaging the town council at the right times, giving us updates when we needed to, and asking for funding when it was appropriate, because there was some times when you needed additional support. And so I'm very pleased with the outcome, so thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for the team that aren't covered in the report?
Just want to thank you for all of your hard work. And, the only comment is just whatever we can do to continue to educate the public about just the progress and what it means to them in terms of just their ability to leverage this system. But thank you for taking so much pride in your work, and we're so proud.
Councilmember Garamella?
Yeah, Eric, I don't have my that
Oh.
card to.
Oh,
Yeah, it's right in front of you.
Oh, is that right? Okay, well, that's fine. I echo same sentiments what Vicky is saying. We have come a long way from where we started. I still remember when we were having the meeting where a hard decision and a good decision was made to dump SunGuard at that time and move forward with this Munis and Interco. I think that was the best thing. And I said in our meeting last week, NCLM is going to have an ad hoc IT committee because several people there were talking about the issues that towns are facing. And I think you guys should lead that and be I'll talk to Martha and to see how, in their next meeting, you guys can give a presentation on how successful you have and with the data and stats that, Rodney can pull, how effective we are as a town before 2015 and now. I think that would be a good segue for them to incentivize. It's not always, more employees, it's also efficiency in how you do it, especially inter-departments, the ease of flow of data, and that can be archived, and the ease of how the end users who are our citizens and the developers can use it well. Kudos to you all. Thank you.
As you said, it's been a pleasure, and these guys have been great. Couldn't have done it without them.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate all your efforts, and the town is a better place because of your efforts. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions about the quarterly capital projects update that wasn't covered in the report?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Spagnoli, if you could come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hey, Mark. So my question is, I went through that report line by line, and I think it is one of the most comprehensive report I've seen project by project to a level. And my question is, on the Church Street parking lot, like Christian Church parking lot, it said it's the last update. So I'm assuming that parking lot is done, or is it the pictures, or I didn't drive that, but is that pictorial like schematic, or is it really done?
No, the project is completed, council member.
Okay, so because I did not go there, so I just wanted to ensure, but it looks just fabulous because that was one of my first capital project that we approved, $500,000 6 years ago. So and rest of the projects are really well thought out, and it has been nicely dispersed to several people in the team. So it is kind of a collective group effort, and I think that's a sign of a good management and getting all the projects going on the line.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Councilmember Rabadi, please.
I 1,000% agree that a report like this represents a real grasp on the management of all these projects, and thank you. You're obviously doing a great job. I do have a question about the Crabtree Creek Nature Park design. So it seems that there's some kind of problem with original environmental studies that were done. Could you just explain that to me, exactly what happened there?
Yeah, a little bit of the work had been done on the property in the 90s, apparently, that wasn't properly permitted, that affected the floodway. So we're having to go back now and revisit that and provide proper drawings and permits to the county for them to review.
Work was done by who?
That I'm not that sure. I'm not sure, maybe
So Councilmember Rabate, if I may, so that park, in essence, was developed by the group that did the neighborhood there on Key Bridge. So they did that and donated it, or there was a transaction with the town. I don't know, honestly, the specifics in, I believe, 1999. So it was sort of turned over us, and we did not know at the time that there had been some fill put in to that area in order to create what's there. And that fill was never documented or reported to the county and should have been. So as we started down this path, and CLH, who is our contractor, our designer working on this project, got into it and sent one of our early designs to Wake County for evaluation. Wake County has to permit that. It's in the Crabtree Creek watershed, and then it also has to go to NRCS for approval. They found that they realized what we were working off of was not the drawings that they had. So there was some fill that has to be remediated. We believe it's very minimal, but it is a very lengthy process to go through with getting that verified and corrected so we can move forward with the project.
And are there any options for getting back the extra money that we're going to have to spend to remediate that, or is it just too late?
No, it's far too late would be my answer to that. Fortunately, I don't think it's going to be a significant expense. The biggest impact on us right now is time. You know, we have spent a little being a relative word. We have spent a small portion of the design cost to work on that remediation issue. We don't feel it's going to be expensive in the scope of the project to fix. It's really a time issue primarily.
Okay. All right. Great. We'll wait for another update on that, I guess.
Excellent.
Thank you.
We're here for the questions, and our residents can find all this online as well.
Yes.
All this information. So thank you very much. Keep up
Thank
the
you.
great work.
Thank you.
All right, item 9. We have 2 presentations tonight. Introduction of Randy Little, Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Director, and a proclamation recognizing July as Parks and Recreation Month. For our first presentation, I recognize Assistant Town Manager Brandon Zudema.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you for just a couple of minutes tonight as Randy comes up. My absolute pleasure to introduce you to Randy Little, our new Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Director. Randy was chosen following a very competitive selection process that included approximately 40 applicants, literally from across the country, an extensive assessment center. I think Randy would probably agree with that, the extensive part, and also an interview process. He performed very well during this process. He consistently demonstrated the leadership, the creativity, and the innovation. He's also heard those words a few times from us over the past few weeks that we had identified as key attributes for our next director. Randy was selected as the best candidate given his breadth of experience, his interpersonal skills, and his unique combination of education, training, and experience in the field. He is well prepared to lead our staff in achieving your vision and goals for the department. Randy's joining the town of Morrisville with more than 15 years of professional experience in the fields of parks and recreation and leisure services. He most recently served as a recreation division manager for the city of High Point here in North Carolina for their Parks and Recreation Department, having served there for 5 years. Randy is also a member of the National Recreation and Parks Association, the North Carolina Recreation and Parks Association, the National Recreation and Park Ethic Minority Society, and the North Carolina Black Recreation and Park Professionals. Randy holds a bachelor's degree in physical education, a master's degree in public administration, and a master's certificate in project management, and he's also a certified park and recreation professional. That's a mouthful. We are very excited to have Randy here to bring his energy, leadership, and vision to our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources team and to expand and diversify our athletics, community center, and cultural events and programming. Randy started work last Monday and is already working closely with our staff and interjecting himself into Parks operations. My pleasure to introduce Randy and give him the floor for a couple of minutes.
Brandon, thank you. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to say thank Brandon and Martha for bringing me on. As Brandon indicated, I do have a breadth of experience not only in the recreation field, but I was a former teacher as well at the middle, elementary, as well as the high school level. I just finished my 4 years of coaching high school basketball in Winston-Salem. We had one of the best teams in the state the last 4 years, so me understanding what the community means to a town, a city. Like you said, I worked in Washington, D.C., I worked in Mecklenburg County, I worked in Durham. So not only having the educational components, but the experience is very, very important. And being interwoven into the community and the fabric of that is something that I treasure. One of the things that staff know about me that I like to go out and observe. You know, I'll be at events. I know I missed one this past weekend, but my mainstay is to make sure I'm aware of what those opportunities are within the community and the surrounding communities too as well, because I think you learn a lot, not only where you are, but those things around you. I'm creative and innovative. And one of the things that I do champion more so than a lot of things is the well-being of staff and the preparation of staff. So as they move throughout the community and professionally, that they're prepared and ready to excel in any place and anywhere they go, so they'll make the town of Morrisville proud. So thank you again. Nice to meet you all. Brandon, thanks again.
Yes, sir.
Well, welcome on behalf of the council. We are so pleased that you're here. We're looking forward to lots of innovative, creative solutions to help our town be an even better place to live. So thank you very much, and we're going to give you a round of applause for joining us.
Do you want to stay up for the next item, Mayor?
Yeah, that'd be fine if you want to stay there. I'll now recognize Councilmember Scroggins Johnson to read a proclamation, and then you can receive it on behalf of the department.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Well, welcome. So, this is a proclamation recognizing July as Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the town of Morrisville, and whereas parks and recreation programs are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities and contribute to the environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease and improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economy through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, promoting tourism, crime reduction, and attraction and retention of businesses. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, help improve water quality, improve the quality of the air we breathe, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the town of Morrisville recognizes the many benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the town of Morrisville does hereby recognize July 2021 as Parks and Recreation Month in the town of Morrisville and encourages everyone to explore and enjoy their local parks, greenways, and recreation resources. Adopted this day, the 22nd day of June 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Randy, if you'd like to come up, and Bob Butler, also from the Parks and Rec Committee, he's demurring, so he's going to be shy. But if, Randy, if you can come up and get the proclamation, we appreciate our Parks and Rec Committee greatly. Come on up.
So you want me to
Just go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. Now you're new. So you're welcome to take center stage.
Yeah, I was
Okay, thank you.
Mayor. I wanted to say something.
Councilmember Garamella.
Yeah, I wanted to say, like, because with COVID, the only place that people got to go to the parks and the greenway trails, and I want to thank our staff for really keeping everything up and open and giving and place for the kids and adults, which was very much needed. And thanks to the entire Parks and Recs department for ensuring that. And that was a big help during the COVID time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very true. Thank you for sharing that, Councilmember Garamilla. Okay. At this time, we are at item 10, public address. Town Clerk Smith, is anyone signed up to speak in person?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did not receive any emailed public comments, but we did have one individual sign up to speak in person, Mr. Ken Nolan.
Okay.
And Mr. Nolan, if you would just like to step to the microphone here.
You want to be for the public hearing? Okay.
Yeah, he's willing to be for the public hearing.
Okay.
So if he is for the public hearing, there are no individuals signed up for public comment.
Okay. So anyone here in the chamber who would like to speak during public address? Didn't sign up? Okay. Moving on. Item 11, action items. There are 2 action items on tonight's agenda. Consideration of annexation for properties located at 703 and 3109 Slater Road, and a 2021 bond referendum preliminary findings resolution. Aaron Pritchard, Planner 2, will facilitate the first item.
Good evening. Just one moment. Gonna pull up the. You got it. Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. As you mentioned, I am Aaron Pritchard, Planner 2 with the town. I'm back here presenting another annexation for you. This one is a petition for annexation for 703 and 3109 Slater Road. Those parcels are located near NC 540, right at the Wake-Durham County line, so at the very far northern end of the town. Here's an aerial photograph of the 2 parcels in question. The site is directly across from 4540 Phase 2, so that wooded area up here, if you can follow my cursor. This is a project that's currently under construction, near completion. It's a 5-story office building. The 2 parcels in question are contiguous to incorporated town land to the south, and the parcels across Slater Road to the north are also already incorporated into the town. So, the applicant and owner are Michael and Jennifer Lane. This current zoning district is conditional office institutional, and I should mention that this body granted a rezone of this property back on March 9th from its old zoning district into conditional office institutional. The acreage of the property altogether is about 2.9 acres total. The current land use is single-family residential, so there's 1 home there currently, and the project that they have in mind for the site is a commercial office building, much like what is to the north across Slater Road. We recommend that the council approve the annexation for the reasons listed there on your screen. The site is already adjacent to incorporated land, both to the south and the north, as I mentioned, and the owner is voluntarily requesting annexation as well. So I should also mention the proposed 3-story office building is consistent with the future land use plan, which calls for office use in the area. And the new development would also expand the town's tax base. We recommend approval of resolutions A and B. Resolution A is pertaining to the sufficiency of the petition to extend the town's corporate limits. And Resolution B sets a date for the public hearing, which we recommend to be at the next regular meeting of this body on July 13th. And Finally, we recommend adoption of the ordinance or the final meeting to be held at the meeting following that on July 27th, 2021. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. But otherwise, that's all I've got.
Any questions for Mr. Pritchard? Okay, seeing none, if you want to drop it down to show the language of the two resolutions, I'd entertain a motion to adopt those resolutions one at a time. I recognize Councilmember Rabati.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-241-0A. The whole thing, or just the number? The whole thing?
Generally the whole
Okay.
thing, correct?
Going in.
Or is that enough?
I'm sorry, say that one more
Is that enough, or do you want her to read the whole thing?
Yeah, if you could read the whole thing, I guess.
All right.
Eric, could you help pull?
Okay, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-241-0A of the Morrisville Town Council pertaining to the sufficient, it disappeared. Okay,
Sorry.
now it's back.
Technical difficulties.
Okay, I again make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-241-0A of the Morrisville Town Council pertaining to the sufficiency of the petition to extend the Town of Morrisville corporate limits to include properties located along the south side of Slater Road, east of North Carolina 540 at the Wake-Durham County line, commonly known as 703 and 3109 Slater Road. ANX-21-0002 and ANX-21-0004.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously 7-0. And Town Attorney, we can just do the short version this time?
Yes, sir, I would recommend.
Okay, he would recommend that. Would you like to do that again, the short one, Councilmember Rabati?
Right. I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-241-0B.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that also carries unanimously 7-0. Thank you. Nancy Emsley, Finance Director, will facilitate our next item, item 11B. Thank you very much, Mr. Pritchard. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Happy to. Thank you.
Hello again. I am here to speak with you this evening about the upcoming bond referendum that is happening in November. If you recall, at the April 13th Town Council meeting, Council made the decision and the determination to proceed with requesting authorization for issuance of bonds and established amounts and the purposes of those bonds. The first bond that was designated was for public safety improvements, and it's not to exceed $8 million. It is primarily for the Harris Mill, as a potential project for the Harris Mill Road Fire Station construction and some potential land acquisition and reimbursement for future fire stations. The second bond that was approved was the Streets and Sidewalks and Connectivity Improvements Project with an amount not to exceed 11.7, with potential projects of the Airport Boulevard Extension Phase, the Sidewalk Greenway Connections Phase 1 and 2, and traffic congestion improvements. The third that would be on the bond ballot is Parks and Recreations and Amenities Improvements Projects, and that is an amount not to exceed $17.3 million, with potential projects as Crabtree Nature Park, the Morrisville Park Phase 3, open space land acquisitions, and other park enhancements. The projected cost for the proposed bond referendum is a total of $37 million. So in order to proceed with the November bond referendum, this evening, Council would need to adopt the preliminary findings resolution at tonight's meeting. If you do approve if the resolution is approved, then a notice of intent is then filed with the LGC, the Local Government Commission, and then that would be published in the News and Observer on this Friday. And so what the action would be needed is for the adoption of the resolution in order to continue to proceed with the bond referendum in November. If you choose not to, then this would end our process. And so I'm hoping that you will adopt and we'll move forward. Then I'll come back and see you at the July 13th meeting, and we'll introduce the bond orders themselves. And we would need to call a public hearing for the August 10th meeting. So this is all part of the process that we have to go through when we issue bonds. And so there was a bond calendar that was also provided in your attachments that gives you the timeline of what we have to do in order to proceed. So this is just another part of that process. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions for our finance director? Okay. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on Resolution 2021-256-0. I'd recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-256-0 of the Morrisville Town Council to adopt the bond referendum preliminary findings.
And thank you. This actually will be part of our application when we submit it to the LGC. So Eric, I'll need to work with you to get get this document finalized, because this is what is part of that package. So just wanted you to be aware that we'll be moving forward. And thank you. We're excited about the bond referendum.
Okay. Councilmember Rabati?
Do we need a second for the motion? Oh, okay, then I second the motion.
Okay, excellent. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank you very much for all your hard work and your hard work.
Thank you,
in the
and I'm
future.
sorry to interrupt. I'm just excited for the bond referendum. I'm going from the ARP now to bonds, so we've got to have something to look forward to. Thank you.
We are all very excited about this. Thank you very much for your hard work. A lot of staff time goes into this. Item 12 is public hearings. There are 3 public hearings on the item on tonight's agenda. Consideration of annexation for 1608 Wilson Road, located on Wilson Road North of the intersection with Flip Trail, and ordinance approving a zoning map amendment for 1608 Wilson Road, and consideration of zoning map amendments and UDO text amendments. Kate Murdoch, Planner 1, will present the first 2 items, and we plan to take a break between the first 2 items depending on time.
All right. So last meeting I came and kind of introduced this item to you, the annexation petition. I don't have any updates on this item at this point, but I know that you all had scheduled the public hearing for today. So.
Okay. So we're looking to do public hearing today.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go ahead and open up that public hearing at this time. Do we have any speakers for the public hearing for 12A? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone here in the room who want to speak on this? Seeing none, this was announced at our last meeting, so I feel comfortable closing this. I'd entertain a motion to close this public hearing. I recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
I'll close the public hearing. I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Second. I recognize Councilmember Garamella for a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Anything else, or you want to just move right on to the next one?
No, I don't have anything else on this item.
Okay. So the next item is also yours. I think we're early enough. We can just keep going.
All right. So the next item is, thank you, Eric. The next item I also presented a little bit last week is for the zoning map amendment rezoning at the same property, 1608 Wilson Road. At this time, I don't have any updates for you all either, but if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. But I also know the public hearing is still open on this one as well.
Okay. So the public hearing continues to be open on this one. Do we have any speakers for tonight? Anyone here in the room wanting to speak on this item? Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to close this public hearing as well. I'd recognize Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Recognize Councilmember Rabati.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, the public hearing on this item, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay. That one passes unanimously as well. Okay. you want to tell us quick next steps on those two items before you step
So
away?
next steps, I guess next meeting, which would be the July 13th meeting, we'll ask you guys to take action on those two items for hopefully approval, but obviously that's up to you all.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your
Thank
time. We're at item 12C. Chris Lawson, Planning Manager, will present the next item.
All right, good evening, Council. Sorry, I thought you said we'd have a bathroom break. So good evening. This is the second meeting when we're hearing the proposed land use plan amendments, both zoning map amendments and UDO text amendments. So I'd like to begin just reviewing some of the updates and some of the requested information that Council requested last meeting. And then past that, I'd like to really dig into the details of some of the proposed text and reach as many final decisions as Council would like to tonight. Action scheduled for July 13th, and of course that's at Council's discretion. But let
You want
me
to give
begin
us a
tonight.
quick update first, and then we'll open and close the public hearing, or how do you see that best working?
I think actually having the public hearing might be helpful to go first, just because if there's any comments, we can talk through the text amendments. Would that be appropriate, do you think? Just in case any questions come up? Okay.
So any update before that, though? No? Okay. We'll go ahead and do the public hearing at this time. So that's a continuation. Do we have any public hearing comments for that signed up first?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do have one individual signed up to provide public hearing comments, Mr. Ken Nolan.
Okay, Mr. Lowell. If you'll come to the mic, your name and address and your role for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening. Ken Nolan, 32 Albion Place, Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a development manager with Longfellow Real Estate Partners. We are a full-service national real estate firm specializing in life science, owning and developing life science property. We own about 5 million square feet across the country, including our largest portfolio of 2 million square feet within the Triangle, including 400,000 square feet in Morrisville. Over the past 6 months, we've assembled seven parcels of land totaling 22 acres along Watkins Road across the street from Wake Tech within the TOD East sub-area. Our intention is to develop a world-class, multi-story life science development with first-class amenities. We appreciate and are excited the fact that research laboratories had included use within the TOD East, the TOD zoning, but have some concerns about some of the other changes to the text amendments. Some of these changes may produce unintended consequences and prevent or limit the type of innovative life science companies that we know that Morrisville is hoping to attract in this area, but also in other areas of town. Our first concern is the exclusion of manufacturing as part of the research laboratory definition. I know several other developers expressed concern during public comments at the previous town council meeting. Many life science companies operate small manufacturing facilities as part of their testing or developing products for testing. It's an accessory use to lab. And in most cases, they prefer to have their operations under one roof in order to maintain operational standards, but also keep costs down, as opposed to having two locations. Prohibiting manufacturing as an accessory use in research lab would potentially limit the type of tenants that would come to this area. And allowing for small manufacturing facility as part of tenant operations, it wouldn't increase the number of trucks driving into the site or impact overall traffic, and it wouldn't change the aesthetic of the building whatsoever. This change would also adversely affect any lab conversion opportunities within the OI zoning district, as research laboratory is currently a permitted use in that zoning. So secondly, the TOD zoning doesn't allow research laboratory on the first floor. The ground floor is sometimes wanted for lab tenants. And if the intent is to prioritize retail, restaurant, or other uses, that's accomplished in the proposed amendment, which requires 50% of the ground floor for healthcare, eating, drinking, and other such establishments. And so we'd respectfully request that research laboratory be allowed on the first floor as well. We're excited about this development. We're excited it's about a $150 million development. I know my time's up. So thank you very much for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any other in-person sign-ups, Town Clerk Smith?
No, sir, there were not.
Okay. And we received some via email? Okay.
Yes, sir, we did receive 4 emailed comments related to the item. The first comment, Don Munford, 3312 Landor Road, Raleigh, North Carolina. Dear members of the Morrisville Town Council, I am the owner of property that will be affected by the proposed amendments to the Town of Morrisville zoning map that you will be considering this evening. As a property owner, I want to express my support for the amendments. Thank you. The next comment, Nathan and Lisa Nathan, 620 North John Glenn Road, Salt Lake City, Utah. We are the owners of a parcel, 17.02 acres, owned by Morrisville Associates. This letter is in support of amendments -21-003 and 004. With regard to section 3.8.4 C4, we request no limitations to the loadings for buildings related to life sciences, with the exception of particular language that creates conformity to adjacent residential structures. Section 11.5, the definition of laboratories, to clarify that related shipping and receiving is permitted. With regard to setbacks for multifamily construction, we believe that the proposed 15-foot setback is limiting on typical design depth, and we request consideration to change this parameter to 10 feet. The next comment, Srinivas Green, a resident of Morrisville. We have attended the Morrisville Town Council hearing session for the amendments and listened to Mr. Lawson's presentation. We like the proposal, and we are happy and excited to note the developments in Morrisville. This would address the housing issues and bring some liveliness to Morrisville, especially the McCrimmon Parkway area. Keep up the great work you have been doing. Thank you. The final comment, John F. Holmes, 515 North Blunt Street, Raleigh, North Carolina. Dear Mayor Cawley and members of the Town Council, I write to you today on behalf of the owners of Cedar Fork Business Park, LLC, voicing our support of the proposed amendment to the Town of Morrisville zoning map. Our group has been an active part of the development community in Morrisville for over 60 years, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with the town as it continues to grow. Respectfully, John F. Holmes. All comments were delivered to council in their entirety and will be entered into the public record.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there interest in closing the public hearing at this time, or you want to have discussions first and revisit towards the end? Open to your thoughts.
So I would suggest we have discussion first, and then maybe we'll have a better feel for whether we want to close the hearing or not.
Okay. Councilmember Abadi?
Yeah, I have a question about is small manufacturing right now prohibited as a use on a research lab?
Yes, so if we think back to the first meeting, at Planning and Zoning Board, we had what I call squished the research lab and biomanufacturing uses together. Through that meeting and talking with professionals in the field, we decided to separate them back out. So biomanufacturing is one use, research lab is a separate use. Right. Through that process, staff had also taken out, well, we explicitly wrote in the definition, manufacturing would not be allowed, warehouse distribution would not be allowed. Later tonight, text amendment I'm going to propose will allow some light manufacturing. The definition I'm going to propose is actually stolen somewhat from the speaker's email he wrote to me, basically saying that some manufacturing is going to need to be allowed if we want research labs to exist. They are basically for activities related to research, internal use, not for consumption or selling to the public. And then that no, noise, vapor, fumes will escape as part of that manufacturing. So really intended for, if you're working in this lab and you need to make some chemicals or something like that, you are able to make them and have the space and equipment, but you're not building a factory, we're building trucks or something like that.
Right.
So, yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
manufacturing incidental to the production and research was actually the wording that I was going to suggest, so good job.
Thank you. Yeah, and the warehousing distribution, I'll clarify on that while we're talking about it. Warehouse distribution is a use in the principal use table. We still, as staff, are not proposing that, but we are proposing, what do we call it? Delivery service, something like delivering products as incidental to the primary use. So, thank you.
Okay. So do you want to go into your presentation and just let us know when it's a good time for questions, or you want us to just interrupt?
Yeah. So really, let me go over some of the follow-up items first, and then it'll be a good time for questions. Let me jump in real quick. So let me first begin by addressing Raleigh-Durham Airport's concerns about some of the items that are proposed today. So, as the Triangle and the greater Raleigh region grows in population and airport traffic grows, RDU has been concerned about potential for noise-related lawsuits from future residents against the airport. And they oppose any residential development near the airport, and especially in the airport overlay. This concern was brought up during the land use plan process. At that time, senior town staff met on several occasions with staff at RDU, and you will recall that council had a Zoom meeting with RDU board members. At the time, staff adjusted the land use plan to remove any residential uses other than multifamily from the airport overlay district. This includes single-family homes, townhomes, and duplexes. Staff continued to recommend that the McCrimmon corridor was suitable for multifamily development. Council agreed and adopted that recommendation as part of the land use plan. Now that Council is considering the zoning map and text changes to implement this land use plan, RDU has restated its concern. Council received a letter from Mr. Bill Sandifer, who is a Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, in which he expressed the airport's concerns. And this is attachment 14 in your briefing materials. So staff met again with RDU representatives, and after further study, staff continues to recommend that multifamily residential be allowed in the McCrimmon corridor with certain conditions, including noise attenuation, requiring an avignation easement, as well as placing limits on the location of multifamily. Town staff agrees with the RDU recommendation that the developer provide avignation easements to the airport. The easements will be recorded and would make it clear that aircraft overflights will occur over the property with associated noise and other impacts. Staff adjusted the suggested wording of the easement that would be required by the town to address council's concerns provided at the last meeting. At the time, staff has proposed to change the language to what's on the bottom of your screen, which would, at the minimum, convey a perpetual right and easement for the free and unobstructed overflight of aircraft over and in the vicinity of developed property. RDU has also provided an example easement, and this is attachment 13 in your items. Staff also agrees with RDU's recommendation that the construction require additional sound attenuation. This has actually been in the town's UDO for several years now. Staff has reached out to the Triangle Apartment Association, who has indicated that they can help share some specific standards with us. As a part of this text amendment process, staff has also specified that multifamily dwellings are subject to sound attenuation per RDU's request. Council has also asked about a separate disclosure from landlord to the tenant. The town attorney has contacted the North Carolina Real Estate Commission and the Triangle Apartment Association. At this meeting tonight, we do not have any specifics on this, but planning staff and the town attorney will continue to look into it. Also note that in my first presentation several weeks ago, there was a discrepancy between a document provided by the FAA and a document provided by RDU, which basically is RDU's letter, if you remember, discussed a neighborhood environmental survey, which they said demonstrated that residents in high noise areas adjacent to the airports can be annoyed by aircraft overflights. Previously, the FAA had written a letter to the town which said that basically what we propose with the land use plan is consistent with FAA land guidance near airports, and they do not believe the land use changes will adversely affect airport noise or airport operations. Because of the discrepancy, staff did reach out to the FAA again, and this morning they wrote an email which said that they will let us know if and when there are any proposed changes to the FAA's current noise policy, but that had not changed since our initial letter, which stated what's on your screen here, that they still believe it's consistent with FAA land use guidance, the land use plan in our proposed zonings. So I say this all in part to indicate that both town staff as well as the town has put effort into researching these issues, and placing importance on collaboration with RDU. Staff has met with RDU consistently through both the land use plan process and over the last few months, and we will continue to collaborate with all of our regional partners. So with that said, let me jump into some of the other text amendments which were proposed and want to be changes. Yeah. All right. Forgot which page I'm supposed to start on. Okay. So if you remember during the last meeting, it seemed like a lot of what staff had proposed was acceptable. The first thing we're going to get to is the multifamily spacing standards along the gateway overlay on the McCrimmon corridor. And this was a point of a lot of discussion. Staff has proposed some different versions of text to try to accomplish what council kind of provided guidance on last time. This slide shows one of the options, and then the next slide shows others. So I'll just kind of review this quickly, and then I'd just like, I guess, council's feedback on if you like some of the changes, if you don't, if there's other things that you really feel strongly about, and would be happy to go through some of these things. So let me zoom in here. Oh. Okay, so this first page, really it's all the same from the last time. Basically, it's still a tiered system of how close developments can be towards each other. The only thing that's changed is letter E at the bottom, and this would be, this placed emphasis on preserving tree canopy, and specifically for multifamily developments that are not adjacent to a major thoroughfare. So this would be an apartment complex or something like that that's it's not located right on McCrimmon. It'd be backed off McCrimmon on a local street or some kind of smaller road. So not a lot of changes here, but just another option to potentially get more green space. So the bottom would require, so letter E would require 150% of the minimum percentage of existing tree canopy cover and 150% of the width and plantings of the required street yard buffer. So I added the street yard buffer because during council retreat, we heard that council would like to see more landscaping towards the front of the development so it's more visible as folks drive by. Okay. So here are some other options. So the first one at the top and under additional option number 1, it removes A from the previous slide. So A was that the apartments had to be 1,500 feet away from each other. So this removes that and says in the first paragraph that all multifamily developments must provide vertical mixed use, structured parking, or additional tree canopy as outlined below. So the rest of the numbers haven't changed, but this basically would mean any multifamily in this area would be required to have tree canopy, extra tree canopy, some kind of structured parking, or vertical mixed use. And then additional option number 2 is taken directly from our TOD requirements, which requires mixed use on every multifamily development. And that was, yeah. So the last thing I'll say is, these are a few options, but if council chooses, we could go farther, and instead of creating more incentives to do these things, we could also mandate some vertical mixed use, structured parking, instead of just incentivizing. So I think when we started out, we had a certain spacing number. We created some incentives to try to get some of those items that were discussed during the land use plan process. But clearly, if council wants to guarantee these things will happen, we will have to mandate it up front. So there was also a question of I guess, equity between, if we get, the first person that comes in builds, then there's a space from that site, right? Thought a lot more about that. I'm not sure how to require that kind of equity unless the town decides to require every multifamily development have some kind of requirement and kind of gets rid of the spacing. But I know that was a point of discussion, but I've had no other thoughts on that. So I'll stop here and would love to hear your thoughts and questions.
Councilmember Garamella, followed by myself.
Thanks, Chris. I want to debate more on option B there. Suppose a developer comes in and says, I want to go either, I understand the concept of having, ground floor non-residential use. So I'm okay with that part. But the part where it says 50% parking required and 50% non-residential, what if a developer says, like Grace Park comes and says, I want to do 100%, non-residential use on the ground floor. And then this rule does not basically work because you're forcing him to have 50% required for parking or structured parking. So I want that flexibility to be opened up to either or, as long as it's a true mixed use in terms of, or someone will come and say, I'll have 100% ground floor structured parking and not have, basically they will be doing. So how does that work, right?
Yeah. Well, so I think that would comply under the new letter A on this one. So they could be within 800 feet, and if they provide 100% ground floor vertical mixed use, it could be within 800. And then B would require both that and structured parking. So if you feel that there should be an option which really incentivizes that vertical mixed use, we can move. We could adjust A to say, or adjust B to say 50% vertical mixed use, 50% structured parking, or 100% of either.
Something like that. You're giving an option instead of restricting them to do that. So that kind of, it's depending on what they are coming up with. You're just giving options there.
Okay.
Anything else, Councilmember Garamella?
No, that's fine.
Okay. I'd like the council, if they're willing to consider additional option 2, which sort of matches the TOD. If it's our vision to have the McCrimmon area also for everyone and to have mixed use and vertical, I think that's a way to get there. If you could bring up the slide that shows the different spacings and how many actual developments. So in here, the green on the far left, that allows for 5 developments at the 1,500 square feet. Looking big picture and into the future, what did you say would be the average possible number of units in each of these?
So I don't know about, I can speculate. I can say today we had a pre-submittal meeting just as a conceptual plan, and there was 320 units proposed.
Okay. So what I've heard is that when you're doing an apartment complex, it's at least 250 to just make it work at all.
Right.
So if we split the difference and say 300, that's 1,500 more units along McCrimmon. That's addition to the 2 units down at the corner of McCrimmon and Aviation, plus all the TOD East and TOD West units that are coming and our town center. So I know it's a hard ask and the developers won't be that happy about it, but they don't necessarily have to build apartments. I think 5 apartment complexes is plenty in addition to the 2 that we already have on McCrimmon. So I'd say we are allowed to mandate, If this council is willing to mandate it has to be 1,500 apart, it's very clear that if developers want to build apartments, they can build them there, and they have to have at least 50% non-residential on the first floor to make it a place where everyone would like to go and visit. So that's my thoughts. I'd love to hear reactions to that. I know it takes away some of their flexibility, but I think it's for the good of the town. We can make McCrimmon a place that there's lots of little grace parks along the way where people want to visit and see. And we are allowed to mandate. We confirmed that before. So I'll recognize Councilmember Abadi.
I'm not necessarily that concerned with the developer's comfort with whatever we decide, but I do want to make sure that what we're proposing makes sense. And as I'm looking at the pictures of the on slide 18 here, I'm just wondering, we're requiring 50% retail on the ground floor, but I'm trying to decide if that makes sense, because who is the customer for this retail? Like, what retail are we going to put there that's going to be enough of a destination for people to drive out there? Like, I'm not opposed to requiring retail on the ground floor, but when you talk about a bunch of little grace parks, I don't know if I'm sure that makes a lot of sense either. Maybe I think it would make more sense if it was office buildings and retail on the ground floor. I'm not convinced that we need multifamily out there anyway. Like, I don't think there has to be, like, I don't think we have to have multifamily out there, do we?
I'd like to kind of react to that. This is just the limit on multifamily. There will be offices also. So this is just for the multifamily spacing. I'm sure that all of these parcels will be developed, and there will be corporate offices there too.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry, then that's my bad. Okay, then yeah, I'm still fine with the 1,500 feet. I could also probably get okay with the 800 feet, but I'd rather that it stay 15.
Okay. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Rao, followed by Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm fine with the 1,500 feet, Chris. I just want to know, as I'm researching innovation districts, if you look at like one in Raleigh, they're proposing in North Hills, they're looking at about 1,000 units, about 700,000 square feet, and about 4 acres of open space. So I just want to make sure that we're not giving up, because Councilmember Rabadi brings up a good point. I think one way we can attract people in from the town is just more gathering spaces, more open and green space where we can do more concerts, events. We're limited in that space. I think that the retail would be more incubators, and you and I have talked about that, kind of destination retail that's requiring. I don't know whether you could have breweries in this area. I'm assuming you could if you're assuming some light manufacturing. But I think you have to have industrial to do breweries, right? But we need a good brewery in Morrisville. This might be a good place. So what is your take on the amount, how many apartments do you think, given the 1,500 we would be able to have in here, assuming that someone came in and did a development of
Yeah, so let me address a few of the questions you brought up, very good points. So let me clarify first, it's not just retail, there's a number of different uses that would be allowed, which I think a lot of people think of retail, but the UDO breaks down in different categories, including doctor's offices, restaurants, entertainment, personal services, things like that. As far as getting green space, there is another text amendments within this package we propose that says staff has the ability to request an open space should that area have been called out as some kind of future open space within the land use plan that this group adopted in February. The last point is how many apartments could we expect? If we just did, so if we take an average of 300 times 245, let's just say, I can't do that math in my head. It's just speculative, 1,000 to 1,500, if it's 1,500 spacing, depending on, how dense developers want to build these apartments. Clearly, if you provide structured parking and less actual physical asphalt on the ground, you can get more apartments and more building space.
Okay. And just one final concern, and we've already brought it up, but I just want to, I'm fine with having the multifamily, but I just actually got back from Virginia Beach a few days ago, and it's near an Air Force base, and the amount of noise that I heard from the planes was just enormous. I mean, I could just see stuff rattling in the house. It made me think about it. So I just want to make sure that the noise attenuation and those kinds of things are something, because even as I hear the planes go over my house, I don't know whether I didn't hear them for 14 months, and now all of a sudden they're coming back. So does it seem louder to me than I remember?
Yeah, and I do have some expertise in Virginia Beach. It's my first job, and I helped enforce the city's airport noise overlay there. They're concerned of the jet noise, which is significantly louder than our aircraft here, and they're also concerned with crashes because the Navy planes are testing the landings and going. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
And the final question: could we have a brewery here in this?
Could there be a brewery? Let me see. You said it's an industrial use, and I think it is.
So I'm not sure.
And it is. Yeah. So under additional option 2, industrial uses are not in there, so it would have to be included for brewery to be. Wait a second. No, sorry. Brewery is allowed in this zoning district. I was thinking of the TOD. Brewery is allowed. But it's not currently listed as one of the uses that would have to occupy that 50%. Could be though. I'm not opposed at all to that. So.
All set?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, followed by Councilmember Fender.
Thank you. I'm going to take a little different approach to this set of criteria. Currently, we have a supply issue when it comes to housing, especially affordable housing. And if we elect to go with a 1,500, foot spacing, then there will be less of these units available, and it'll be more expensive per unit to build because you won't have the economies of scale. So I am okay with the 800-foot setback, knowing that there would be more flexibility for the developer to include possibly some affordable units within the framework. When we limit flexibility, we are going to get a very high cost product, and I would like to see more affordable, and not affordable housing like federal housing, but workforce housing, such that some of those units could have offset to the rent premium so that more workforce could live in these areas if they so choose. So thank you.
Councilmember Fender, please.
Now I forgot what I was going to ask because I was thinking about what Councilmember Scroggins Johnson was proposing. I wanted to ask about how are you addressing green space in this area?
Yeah. So currently, green space would be addressed the same way it is across any other area of town, unless we enacted one of the options I proposed.
So if we were to potentially settle on just having the option where all these apartment complexes have to be 1,500 feet apart, then we they wouldn't have any incentive to implement the keeping 150% more tree canopy or the 150% street yard buffer.
Right. So there'd be less apartments overall, but there would not be, if it was just strictly 1,500 feet distance between apartments, they would not be as incentivized to it. On the reverse side, I propose these options, but they are not. I just thought of these. They're not perfect options, so we could mess with them somehow to create, an additional option to require somewhat more trees somewhere, especially along the street, should that be a priority.
Yeah, I would like to see, regardless if we do the 1,500 feet spacing or the 800, I would still like to see some sort of stipulation in there, either to incentivize preserving more tree canopy or requiring it.
Okay.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
So thank you, Chris, for bringing us some more examples. This cannot be easy, and I was one that was worried about that whole equity and how we were going to really work with this, and maybe I shouldn't worry about it. Maybe we leave it up to the development community, and they amongst themselves somehow work it out, or it works out. Maybe there won't be that many apartment developers that are interested in, this may be all for naught. I don't know. Time will tell. But I think I'm going back to the 1,500 feet option that you had. It always makes me nervous when we're incredibly prescriptive. And I worry about that because there are so many unintended consequences. And this goes back to what Councilmember Garamella said about trying to be more flexible to allow for more creative and innovative projects to come forward instead of us sitting here tonight deciding what we think percentage-wise or whatever should happen 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. So I think I appreciate the options, but I'm going back to maybe the original text or the one you just offered, which really is just the addition of E, right? Letter E.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I think that's kind of where I'm landing here right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Not that.
Okay.
You've got 7 different opinions so far, so I'm not sure where we're headed.
So we've all had a shot. Now we're going to go through a second round. I saw Councilmember Abadi first, and then Councilmember Garamella, please.
Yeah, so the UDO, if there's a developer that has what they feel is an innovative project, that let's say that they have an innovative project, but it requires that it would be 800 feet from the next apartment complex. Is there a process by which they could, how like they can come before us and they can request a zoning change? Yeah. Is there such a process to request a UDO change?
There is. So I think it kind of depends what you mean by innovative, but there's kind of 2 answers. The first thing is they could work with staff to apply for, or staff would apply for it is a text change to the UDO, which would come before the PZB and town council. That's going to take 4, 5, 6 months. They could also, let's say our standards are the town standards are too aggressive, and they say, well, we could rearrange some stuff to get a better product, but we have to do it this way. They could apply for a conditional rezoning and come present conditions, present a sketch plan, and kind of reconfigure some of the things. Now, there's some limitations on how much they can adjust, but those are 2 options. Overall, I think it depends on which developer you talk to, whether the UDO restricts or encourages innovation, but there are some things that can fit within the UDO that the director can kind of make some informal decisions on if it's not explicitly clear in the UDO. But overall, I think I said last time, if council puts the words in the UDO, the staff follows those words. We don't make our own call on kind of wiggle room, I guess, unless it's very reasonable. But yes, there is an option. The one thing I have noticed as these text amendments are coming closer towards the end is, like I said, we had a pre-submittal meeting earlier, which is when a developer comes in and shows us kind of their ideas on what they want to build. We encourage some of those more to better design standards, and they it was a fine product, but it looked like any other apartment complex across town. It was not the, I've heard the word innovative. Again, it was a fine product. It was not what I'd call innovative. It was another apartment complex, which people will probably be very happy to live at and will be successful. But it's like I think I kind of answered your question. Is there any follow-up?
So, sort of. So, I guess my question is that presumably after all this time, staff knows that we care about trees and we care about open spaces and so I guess what I would be looking for is, I don't want to be overly prescriptive. I want people to bring us good projects, but I keep going back to what Donna said about incentivizing them to add more of the things we want. So is the best way to do that to put the 1,500 square feet in, and then if they want to go 1,300 square feet or they want to go 1,000 feet, let them come in for a redo of whatever type? Or is it better to just put the 800 feet in and make them do a certain percentage of open space and trees and non whatever you call that kind of parking, that's a parking lot?
Just surface parking.
Surface parking, yes, thank you.
So, as I've worked through this process, at the beginning, I think staff was just going to have the 1,500 feet, nothing else. And then we thought, well, we could incentivize other things to really get that development. The more I get through this process, the more I think your second point has really hit the nail on the head. I think it might be best suited to determine what distance requirement do we want, how many apartment complexes overall do we get, and is there one or two things that the council really values? And if you do really value that, my advice as your staff is mandate it. Do not rely on incentives. I also agree that we don't want to get too prescriptive. I think if the council sees a vision for something, let's identify it and let's go after it. But again, when you write these words, there's always little things that happen that kind of you don't foresee as sites get developed, and some things that can't happen. But I think your second point and my advice would be identify how many apartment complexes is council comfortable with along McCrimmon, and past that, is there one or two things, maybe a third, that council really wants, and let's focus on those.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Garamella, followed by Councilmember Fender, please.
Chris, I want to go back to this. There is one image that you said, right, how the buildings should be facing Mackerman somewhere, somewhere down in the presentation. Or,
in a different section?
Yeah.
One of these two?
So where I'm trying to get is, suppose take this as an example, right? You're saying it has to be more, the building has to be more road facing on Mackerman. Mm-hmm. So hypothetically, a builder comes with 5 buildings and say a 20-acre lot, and only 3 are facing Mackerman. It makes more logical sense for him to build retail, which is facing Mackerman. But if you're mandating him to have 50% non-residential use and mandating that the front, there is no way for opening up. No one will know, what's at the back. So how will that work? Because it's kind of counterintuitive here by forcing them, a non-residential use and not getting the frontage of the road to have their sales. I don't want, we are having a hard time already seeing in Grace Park or any other places where the shops are not running well. And this is one of the more pristine area where we want bustling. So how can we avoid by putting more prescriptive that it'll really work or not work?
Yeah, and I think, when we've talked to developers, they've got a lot of the same questions, but I think what we've currently proposed is to require vertical mixed use 50% along McCrimmon, so along those major roads. I work for I'm a planner, so I'm not in the business industry. I don't run my own small business, but there's different developments that both Brad had looked at and I've looked at that seem to have this work out successfully. One of them we've pointed to a number of times is if you've ever driven to Chapel Hill and you get off on 54 as you're heading into Chapel Hill towards UNC, on the left, there's a BP station on the right, and on the left there's a development. It's right up to the road. There's a breakfast place, different little restaurants, things like that. I know that probably doesn't help at all, but we think with the number of people that we expect to be working in this on McCrimmon and to be living here, we think the businesses could be supportive, and that's why we've limited it to certain uses, but we left it very broad. So we're not just saying you have to have a retail store where you can come buy a T-shirt. It's any number of retail, restaurants, service uses. Similar to Grace Park, how there's a variety of businesses there. That's what we'd envision on McCrimmon.
Yeah, like for example, Grace Park, you see only on one side. If the back side of it, there's no retail. So
right.
So how would you define? I just want to ensure.
Yeah. So this would only require it on this. Well, it actually doesn't require it on the side of the building facing McCrimmon, but it says next to McCrimmon, that's where you provide your 50%. So yeah, I mean, hold on, let me find that section before I say that. Let me go back up. So, all right. So all buildings fronting a major thoroughfare, minor thoroughfare, or collector street must dedicate 50% of the total length of the ground floor facing said street. So we require 50% of those uses on the side of the building that faces the major road with the most traffic to have the businesses on that side.
Then what about the buildings behind? That's where my question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, so that would not be required. So if the building's not right on the major road,
Okay.
it would not be required.
Okay.
Okay, all set. Councilmember Fender, please.
So let's be real. Developers, it's not in developers' best interest to save trees. I mean, how do I know that? Because we can just look around and see what we have in Morrisville right now. If you take a look at Trailside, what was the first thing they did? They clear cut the trees. If you take a look at Bainbridge, I was driving through there the other night, and I hate driving by that god-awful apartment building. It's a complete wall, and it's ugly as heck. Take a look at Alta Morrisville. What was the first thing they did? They clear-cut trees. Developers are going to do they're only going to save the bare minimum of trees that they can get away with. So I think we do have to be prescriptive to some point, or they're going to just, if we don't, they're just going to keep giving us what they have been, and nothing will change. We'll continue having clear-cut parcels of land with no trees saved or the bare minimum. So we have to, if you don't change something, nothing is going to change. I like Chris's idea that his recommendation possibly go to 800 feet spacing, and then if there's things that you really value, then mandate it. Otherwise, we're not going to get trees. I mean, let's be real. You can talk about, we want them to be creative and innovative. They're not into being creative. They're creative in trying to figure out as many apartments as they can get to make the most money. And that's it. So we do need to, if we value green space as much as we say we do, then we need to do something about it rather than just getting the same old, over and over again. We know from what our residents have told us, they want more trees, green space, and they want less apartments. Now, I'm resigned that we're going to have apartments in some shape or form in this area. If we do want the retail and we want it a vibrant area, we do need some mix of apartments. But unless we mandate them to save green space, provide open space, it ain't going to happen. So my suggestion is we come up with some parameter, whatever it is, to mandate they save a larger percentage of trees in this area than what we currently allow in our UDO. If we don't do that, nothing is going to be any different in that area. We're going to continue to see clear-cut parcels of land. In that area along McCrimmon, in fact, I have a story to tell. I don't know if you guys have noticed, driving down through McCrimmon Extension at night, there's an albino deer that lives in those woods. And first time I saw it, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But then I saw it one night right there on the berm as we came up to the Wake Competition Center. And it was a white deer with a brown deer beside him. So there are a ton of pine trees and all sorts of trees and wildlife in that area. And I know we're going to have to eliminate some of that. But we don't need to do a large-scale, clear-cut, devastate that entire area. So that's all.
Councilmember Rao, please.
As a follow-up to that point made by Councilmember Fender, Chris, I do see our hands being tied in terms of that. I know 2 years ago we went in a retreat looking at where we could meet our objectives of more tree preservation. But if somebody comes in for a development that's approved for multifamily, normally we have more leeway when we have conditional rezonings. But in this case, it wouldn't be a conditional rezoning. So from a staff perspective, how would we achieve what Councilmember Fender is asking? Would we just simply ask the developer as a partner that we would like them to consider saving a higher percentage? Because if we didn't do that, then like she said, they're just going to meet the bare minimum.
What's this overlay?
Yeah, people want us to see, they want to see results of new development that's saving more trees. Yeah. So how do we do that without violating, even as Attorney Gray, I'm curious as to if we came in and said, no, you can't do that, then the developer or the applicant on a development could come in and say, well, I'm meeting the standards of the UDO, so how could you stop my development? So in certain ways, our hands are tied.
So I'll say the first thing is if we certainly can ask developers, and we do. I don't know if that gets us very far as far as staff asking. We would have to change fairly significant portions of the tree preservation to save more trees and to kind of get where you guys are getting at. The thing I heard from Councilmember Fender, the developments you cited, we'll talk about the Broadstone Trail site on McCrimmon or Alta across from Taco Bell over there, off Morrisville Carpenter Road. Both of those sites saved a decent acreage of trees, but they're hidden far in the back where no one could see. So when you drive by, it did look like somebody just came by and clear-cut an entire site.
But it was the minimum, too, that they were required, right?
Sure, yes. Well, not Alta. Broadstone, yes. Alta saved through the rezoning more than they would have been required, but again, it's so far in the back, it's in floodplain, it was unusable anyways. But what I've heard consistently, both from tonight and from when we spoke in February retreat, is that you want not only to save more trees, but to have them visible, to have them up front. For instance, if you head to Town Hall, right where it hits McCrimmon, there's a development going on right now, but the corner is still wooded. So if you drive past that sometime, and we talk about trees again, please remember that one, and if you like it, let me know. But to change significant portions of the tree, we'd have to change significant portions of that tree protection right now to meet some of your requirements. Unless you wanted to do a multiplier like I suggested earlier, that's fairly simple for this specific zoning area. But again, if you remember, there's a priority order, and it does not prioritize trees at the front. It just identifies deciduous first, then evergreen and deciduous, then specimen trees, which are the bigger ones, and then the fourth is just any kind of scrub that's still out there in the priority.
Can I ask a follow-up question,
Sure.
just so I understand? It was my understanding, and maybe I'm totally wrong, that with this overlay, the creation of this overlay gives us more ability to put additional restrictions that is in addition to what is in our UDO.
That's true. I will say the overlay has focused primarily on form of the buildings and site design rather than specifically trees or, hesitant to say environmental features, but it's focused more on the overall concept of getting buildings closer to the road, framing intersections, developing a corridor feel along McCrimmon more than trees themselves. But it's not set like that. It could certainly be adjusted. Yeah.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
So this is a great conversation. And Chris, your letter E that you created, where you talk about the 150% of existing tree canopy cover. So how does that, help me understand how that ties into this conversation, and does that truly save a lot more tree canopy?
So,
some kind of relative understanding.
So I'll scroll down to this slide so we can tell where I'm talking about. So all the ones that I've identified, all the potential sites are along McCrimmon, so they wouldn't be eligible for that as the way I've written it. But let's say we have a road which is planned to come from McCrimmon over to Airport, and it's not one of those major roads, and somebody builds an apartment complex back here. That would be eligible for it. Now, if it's going to save additional trees, that depends because it's a percentage. So it really depends on how many trees are on the site currently. So it could range from, saving a good deal number of more trees to if the site's only required to save, let's say, 39% of their trees right now because it's only covered by about 30% of trees, it's probably not going to be that noticeable. And that's where that additional street yard buffer would really help out with the extra plantings. So again, uncertainty, because it depends on a number of things. How big the site is, how many trees are existing, really being the crucial ones. So.
But it's a step in the right direction. It's on this conversation that we're talking about tree canopy.
If you want to save more trees, I believe it is, yes.
I'm still not sure I like the idea of the shall have no minimum distance requirements. That part, the last part bothers me in that item, but the idea of upping the percentage of existing tree canopy obviously is very appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I love this conversation. I would reemphasize that it's up to us to share our vision into this space. So I would say the 1,500 to 50% mixed use on facing the major thoroughfares, and maybe a little addendum to, in addition to required tree save in our UDO, add another 50%. If that's something that's important to us, be prescriptive. If it doesn't work and the development community says this can't happen and no development is happening, they will come back and they will let us know. But if we are relaxed at the beginning, they will build it, and if we're not happy, there is no other outcome. So I'd rather be a little bit more conservative to start. I know there's a lot of concerns about the number of units that are coming to town. The 1,500 addresses that as well as we could. I think we had a lot of conversations with our residents about these 3 sub-areas, and they are resigned as we are that there needs to be some more apartments in town. If we allow 800 feet, we're talking about 3,000 instead of 1,500. So I really like the 1,500. If the development community has a real problem or they come up with something creative and our roadway network is up to snuff and our schools are caught up, I'd love to hear from them then. But right now, we are not caught up in our infrastructure. So you've heard a lot from a lot of us, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to finish this up at the next meeting, although we'd like to. I think, what has staff heard? What do you think you're bringing back to us at this point, or is it too hard for us to give us that answer now? Because we're looking to vote on the next meeting, we sort of have to be on the same page now. Or
We've only started talking about multifamily. We haven't even addressed the lab space
Oh, yeah, this is just
changes?
one item of many
I
that we're talking about tonight.
Just wanted to be sure you weren't moving on
Nope,
completely.
not moving on. There's lots more to talk about. So I want to just compartmentalize it so we finish with this section as much as we can. But first, Councilmember Garamella has a thought.
Yeah, I think we still have discussion to do. I don't think we are locked in with 1,500. You know, I see inconsistency loud and clear here. You know, we have passion with the tree canopy as one interest here, and then 1,500 is one. So having flexibility is more better in these, like, because I don't like the idea, give it 1,500. If they don't like it, let them come back. That's like 6-7 months in change and going through this whole rezoning and conditional rezoning. I think the people in this area have waited long, and I think we have to have a clear image of what we want and also have flexibility to it. So I personally feel, 800 or 500, depending on what it is a-okay for me. 1,500 is a too far stretch, then very soon we will get into conditional rezoning or amendment. And I think our idea is to have this area develop with not keeping a radar of just multifamily, but what all the other uses that we are getting, like biofarm and other users. So, Chris, I wanted to ask, are you getting a whole lot of, I'm sure a lot of calls you might be getting and pre-submittals. Give me the percentage of how much are apartment versus other uses, so that kind of gives us some understanding of where we're heading towards.
Sure. We receive calls every other day, if not daily. There are two uses we get calls about: multifamily and biomanufacturing or research lab. It's very consistent. There's a lot of interest. After the last meeting, I got in the office and I probably had 3 missed calls already. It was like 8:30 in the morning about, I saw the meeting, when can I submit? Is it ready? Is it approved? I'm like, no, we got a while to go. Hold on. There's a lot of interest. I was on the phone with a few people earlier, and I just said, look, after tonight, I think we'll really know more of where council's headed. Don't get too far into designing your plans. There's a lot of stuff that could change. But there's a lot of interest in this area. And again, the two major uses are that biomanufacturing research lab and multifamily. So.
And that's the only two users you're hearing. What about any other users, like offices or? Because it's a BAC, that's the reason I'm trying to get a gauge of.
I'm trying to think. I looked over to see if there was any other uses. Those are really the two we're hearing. I mean, it's trying to think if I've talked to anybody else about any other kinds of uses, and I do not think I have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson?
Well, I'm glad we're talking about one of those two right now. So after hearing council questions and responses, I think it is important that we realize that the 800 square feet not only would allow for flexibility of housing options and choices, but 800 square feet would allow for more tree canopy options. You could put the buildings closer together and then have more green space. So I think that is what I would consider a win-win option, or more favorable to the end goal versus just, incentivizing that tree canopy and allowing flexibility of placement of buildings would probably be ideal. So consistent with Councilmember Garamella and including Councilmember Fender's, request for kind of really getting that tree incentive, a little bit clearer so that it can be followed better. Thank you.
You can summarize.
I'm hearing somewhere between 8 1,100 to 1,500 feet, incentivized trees, and I think vertical mixed use flexibility. Is that a decent summary?
Okay.
Okay.
That's a
So
good
if I
start.
if I come back, if I come back next time with 2 options, would that be acceptable? Just 2.
I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Probably
We're gonna have to
7
pick
options.
eventually.
All right.
Councilmember Garamella?
Yeah, going back to the tree canopy, so what if we increase the buffer between 2 properties to have more trees in that area or that kind of a stuff? Because, when you're saying 150%, then also you have the flexibility of increasing the buffer between 2 lots. Right now, I think it's just 10 or 20 feet between 2 property lines and setbacks. So that could also be one instead of these guys almost going to the 0 lot line.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad option. I think there's trade-offs between preserving existing tree canopy and then having new buffers, which clearly you don't have to replace one for the other. But new buffers take a little bit to grow. They're more manicured. I think again, going back to what I've heard council talk about is, let's say a site does have to remove trees towards the front of the site. If there was a heavier required plantings along the road. It sounds like council may be happier with that rather than our standard street yard buffer. Of course, these take years and years to grow, but that would be something, and they would be planted and on site. I mean, if that's besides just requiring more tree save, if you'd like additional street yard buffer plantings, I think that's an option too. And I think from a developer perspective, requiring additional plantings along the front is probably better than saving more of the land you want to develop, doing additional parking or something else like that. So I don't think that's a bad option at all. I'll add that in one of my choices if that's acceptable. Okay. So, anything? You may move on. Okay.
Another section?
Yeah, let's keep going here. All right. So, let's go through. Going. All right, so I wrote some notes here. Okay, so this covers one of the public hearing comments we had earlier about the development standards in which research labs could not be located on the ground floor. After more consideration and thinking, staff, so originally in the first set last meeting, staff had proposed that research labs would not be allowed on the ground floor. Again, more talk with the industry and consideration. Feel like this should probably be removed, or we're proposing to remove it. Really want this would be in the TOD specifically. Really feel that the TOD is much more concerned with the form and getting some of those TOD form-based standards rather than necessarily use of a research lab. Really, office would be allowed. It's a fairly similar use, so we don't think that should be prohibited on the first floor. Research labs should be prohibited on the first floor of the TOD anymore. Any questions about that one? Oh, okay. I'll just keep moving here. Where are we at? So this. I don't think we talked about this last time, but basically parking garages in the TOD district must have some kind of facade covering, which is 50% brick, stone, or rock. We had added precast concrete, but would like to remove that and leave it just with brick, stone, or rock, or tinted CMU. Just any feedback on that? Okay.
Do you have any visuals of precast concrete and how it's not as nice?
Precast concrete is more what you're going to, I don't have visual, but it's more of what you're going to see for any parking garage that you think of, just gray, kind of bland wall. Don't have any visuals. I can get you some and add that.
Okay, I'll recognize Councilmember Fender, followed by Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson, please.
I was just going to say I like that idea of it, just keep restricting it to brick or stone, rock.
Okay. So removing the precast.
I have a
Councilmember-
question though, too,
Yeah, sure.
while I'm talking. Are we gonna go back and talk about the biomanufacturing in the area of McCrimmon Extension?
Let me check my notes. I don't think I planned specifically, but we surely can.
Okay, I have a question with regards to that when we.
Okay, why don't we finish on the
Circle back.
precast and then we'll circle back.
Well, that concludes all the other changes that I had, and I think all the follow-up, so I'd be happy to go back and answer any other questions or talk about biomanufacturing.
Okay, Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
So I apologize for not raising my hand like a few slides back, but I did want to talk about the research labs in the TOD.
Okay.
So it's my understanding that research labs are prohibited from any location on the first floor. Is that correct? Or
So-
can you clarify that?
Yeah. So the TOD is an existing zoning ordinance within the UDO. It lists the uses that are permitted and not. Before this process, research labs were not allowed at all in the TOD. Through working with stakeholders, including property owners, staff felt that when we amended the definition of research lab to make it more resemble just an office, just like any other building you drove past, research lab would be an acceptable use in the TOD district. Through that process, somewhere along the way, and I don't remember exactly, for the first council meeting we had 2 weeks ago, it had been proposed not to allow them at all on the first floor. We've since backed off on that as a staff level, thinking that we still require 50% other kinds of uses along buildings that face thoroughfares or collector streets, and that a research lab would be fine on the first floor, just like an office would, just like some other kind of use like that.
Okay, so let me kind of rephrase what you just said.
Okay.
For those buildings that are facing a road, you're requiring that 50% of the first floor of those buildings be some sort of retail or other use.
Mm-hmm.
It's not acceptable to have a research lab in the front, perhaps, or is it just 50% of the space?
So 50% of the total length of the ground floor facing the street would have to be one of those other uses.
Okay.
But if there's an extra 50%, that could be a research lab.
Okay, and those buildings that are not directly facing the street, would those be allowed to be 100% research lab?
Sorry, I misspoke. In the TOD, yeah, so in the TOD, let me read my text here. Okay, yeah, so any building that's not facing a major thoroughfare, minor thoroughfare, or collector street would not have to have that 50% ground floor requirement. It still would be required to have a mix of uses, including residential, institutional, or commercial. So it would still be required to have that mix of office, residential,
within the building.
personal, right. But it would not specifically have to have that 50% of the uses that are identified in the paragraph on the screen here.
Very good, okay. So within these research labs, now we've also modified language to allow for light manufacturing?
I have proposed that tonight to allow some light manufacturing for a company within the building not to sell to the general public, to be used for research or educational purposes. Yeah. Yes,
So
sir.
like clinical trial supplies could be manufactured, or maybe even commercial supplies that were sold through another means, not on site.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm somewhat of a pharma nerd. Okay, so there could be some light manufacturing then for labs.
Somewhat for labs.
I'm just thinking chemicals sometimes, they're heavy and it'd be good to have them on the first floor. So
Certainly.
yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Fender, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, please.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask a bit more about the biomanufacturing in the McCrimmon Extension area. First, it sounds like the definition of manufacturing we're using in the TOD is going to be a lighter usage than what we're talking about in the area of McCrimmon Extension. Is that true?
It would be different. I must view the TOD as having, you know, I almost don't think manufacturing is the right word. It's more of a use incidental to the research that's going on. Whereas along McCrimmon, you could have a company, let's say Pfizer, producing mass quantities of whatever they make.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what is the I can't think of the right. What's the constraint of that biomanufacturing? Is it just the fact that it's biomanufacturing? Because if that's the case, you could end up with a Novartis or a Merck vaccine plant like is up in Trayburn.
Mm-hmm.
They make, and those are both huge manufacturing facilities, but they both meet this definition because they're making vaccines, but they also both have central utility plants and diesel and natural gas generators on the outside of the plant. So I feel like, I'm guessing we don't want that necessarily along McCrimmon Extension. So I think we would want some sort of constraint there to limit the type of manufacturing, so that, I mean, we do still have a couple of big parcels of land through there. So I don't know what words you would need. I see in this definition we have light or medium manufacturing. It has similar externalities as light or medium manufacturing.
Yeah, and so what those mean exactly are light manufacturing. If you just have a general use that qualifies for that, is that there's no odors or sounds or anything that goes onto adjacent sites. Medium allows small amounts. That's really the main difference between those two.
So are we staking our claim here on the medium manufacturing, that's going to save us from having a Novartis?
It depends on the specific use of that company. I'm looking in the UDO right now, and I think there's a use that's central utility plant.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing it. I would think it's not allowed in that zoning district, but I'm not seeing it. So I guess with that company, and I'm not as familiar with them, what other things would you be concerned about, like as far as the way they use the property?
You have a lot of 18-wheelers coming in and out. You would have emissions. I mean, granted, they would have to get an air permit, but those type of places, they have to have generator backup. So they have multiple natural gas generators, which have emissions that they have to do an air permit. And the central utility plant has boilers, chillers, air compressors.
Yeah, well, and actually, you remind me, I forgot to cover something. At the Planning and Zoning Board, we had a lot of discussion about, loading dock spaces, and should there be a maximum number? Should there be some kind of development standard around them? What staff's proposing right now is just that they cannot face major minor thoroughfares or residential areas. But that was initially designed as an attempt to kind of limit the number of trucks on coming from facilities. Got a lot of feedback from the industry that they were not fans of that. They wanted more flexibility to be able to locate trucks in different suites within a building, or not trucks, but loading docks. But that's something more we could look into if that's a major concern.
I think it's all of it together. Mm-hmm. Can you limit central utility plants in that?
So it is currently an allowed use in the BAC zoning district. We could adjust that with these text amendments, should council want to do that.
Well, I just think we need something in that definition of biomanufacturing that we would allow in McCrimmon Extension so that we don't have a manufacturing plant that is built there with a ton of 18-wheelers going back and forth and with emissions, particulates going in the air.
Anything else? That's it. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, followed by Councilmember Garamella, then Councilmember Rabati.
So Chris, I wanted to go back to the 50% definition on the first floor under TOD.
Okay.
And you said the portion facing the street. Well, every building faces the street. So you're saying every front portion of the building, only 50% can be lab space. The other 50% has to be some other mix. And then the back part of the building can be lab space or whatever.
Yes. So let's say, for instance, let me. Do I have a map in this stuff? Let me switch to a map real quick. This will be easier to describe. So we have our TOD areas. The buildings that face major thoroughfares, minor thoroughfares, and collector streets, and these are in this map, this is going to be your Church Street, which runs along my mouse here, and then McCrimmon or Chapel Hill Road. Buildings that are up against those roads, that face those roads, are going to have to be at least 50% of those specific uses that we called out, which is, again, includes restaurants, medical offices, accountants' offices, things like that. Now, as you get further into the TOD, all buildings, no matter if they face a major road or not, are going to have a mix of uses between commercial uses, residential, and institutional. And those are, again, identified in the principal use table, the UDO. And institutional is anything from, your government buildings like this to places of worship, things like that. Commercial, I think, is explanatory. It's your retail, it's your nail shops, it's things like that. And then residential is housing. So all buildings are going to have a mix of those three uses, at least two of the three. And within those uses, there's a bunch of smaller, broken down uses. But the buildings that face these major roads through town have to have some of the specific uses we called out between retail, restaurants, other things like that.
Okay, so not the buildings like Watkins or any of the new roads that will be created within the TOD East?
Right. So if you get into the TOD East, you're going to be on a local road, which wouldn't have to have that specific mix of uses, but it would still have to have an overall mix of things. It couldn't just be a standalone multifamily building or a standalone office. And the thinking behind that, at least our theorizing, is that if you have just a standard office like you do with the rest of Perimeter Park, everyone just drives home at the end of the day. We want some mix of uses within a building to keep not only people there 8 to 5, but also going to restaurants, living there, getting the first, second, and third places. So your home, your work, and a place you can go after work to enjoy.
Okay, so then what does that do to the public hearing comment we heard tonight about from the Longfellow Development Corporation?
So that would, I think that's dependent on what classification of road Watkins Road is. And if you give me 1 second, I can look that up. If it is a collector street, which I think it is, they would have to have that 50%, the 50% facing that road be one of those specific uses. It is a collector road, so it would have to have, their buildings would have to have that 50% of those specific uses facing Watkins Road, along Watkins Road.
Okay. Councilmember Garamella, please.
Chris, going back to Donna's comment regarding the central utility and the diesel generators, right? I have a different perspective because my office, AT&T, is ONI, and it's also a data center. So we have 2 huge diesel generators as a backup because we have to ensure it has 1 week of uninterrupted power supply in any storms or anything. And I'm sure these are the standards that any biopharma and others mandate, like if they have to keep the freezers and their stuff at a certain temperature, they can't be waiting on, interrupted power, or some car goes and hits a transformer and has 7 hours of power outage. So those are part and parcel of these light manufacturing, right? I'm trying to ensure that you have it, but we won't give you a backup for it, kind of a thing, because those are, to my understanding, part and parcel, which are required for running their industry uninterrupted.
Yeah, well, and I will comment on at least a generator. I don't know how a utility plant happens, if it's inside a building already or not, but a generator at least has to have screening no matter where it is in town, and that ranges from, well, it's mostly usually just masonry walls have to block off a generator, but that goes anywhere in town, and then otherwise, if they're on the roof, again, they have to be screened. Yeah, that might not mitigate all effects of them, but that's at least what we currently require.
I have a clarification there.
We'll circle back to you. So just hold that if you could. Were you done, Councilmember Garamilla?
Yeah.
Councilmember Rabati, followed by myself.
I'm fine to hear Councilmember Fender's clarification.
Okay. Councilmember Fender, your thoughts on what you just heard?
It's a matter of scale. When I talk about a generator, it's not a little generator you would have for your house or anything we would, like the one here at Town Hall. It's all a matter of scale. I don't think we can just simply say we're going to allow biomanufacturing, because that does include a Merck plant, which makes varicella vaccines and the MMR vaccine, or Novartis. And if you have been to any of these places, then you would understand what I'm talking about. Maybe you can look at the Google Maps and see. But these are generators that would be that take up a third of this room and are humongous engines. They're not a generator I think most of us are used to. And these type of places, they have 3 and 4 of these emergency generators on top of having a central utility plant that has multiple boilers and other utility equipment. So it's not just a emergency generator that you would have at a data center. It's just at a much larger scale. For small scale light manufacturing, you may not even need a generator. They could just be using large UPSs. So I don't know how to better explain it.
And I'm used to the central unit. The AT&T building has the guns of Neuron type, like 2-story, huge, generators, which is completely sealed within the building. So I'm familiar with those. But also like the ONI building, I'm saying, which is a regular office. Like it has like almost like a 18-wheeler tractor trailer type generators, which are mounted outside, which pretty much ensure, every year you go through the DR test. So those are part and parcel of every company that comes in and works and have their standards that are set up. That's what I'm trying to say.
But is that what we're, also those buildings back there in RTP, they're completely surrounded by woods as a buffer. And so it's a matter of what are we going to allow along McCrimmon Extension where there's going to be multifamily residential? Are we going to allow a Novartis manufacturing plant right beside residential or not? It's just a matter of scale.
thank you. Councilmember Abadi, please.
Yeah, so, all right, I appreciate that perspective. So I think that, so Councilmember Fender has a point when she says it's a question of what do we want? What are we envisioning for that space, right? So a biomedical company like the Longfellow Company that's going to have, 50% of lab space on the first floor isn't going to do enough manufacturing to worry about. But if we say light and medium manufacturing, we are opening ourselves up to a big, to a Pfizer or a Johnson & Johnson, to something like that. And I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we could pretty much all agree that we don't want that. So why don't we just limit it to light manufacturing? Like, what do we get by allowing that medium manufacturing? Because I don't think any of us want trucks going in and out and, generators the size of town hall and that kind of stuff. I don't think any of us want that. So what if we just say light manufacturing?
Yeah. So I think there's two main differences between the two definitions, and they're, just to be frank, they're not the best definitions to work with when you're thinking about these things. Light is defined by two things. First one is that it's from predominantly previously prepared materials, and that you can't tell outside of a building that it's happening, right? So the second one is the medium, and why I really included it is it's because it says it's from processed or unprocessed raw materials, and it may produce noise, odor, smoke, heat, glare. But really the medium, since it called out that it's for processed or unprocessed raw materials, that's really why I included it, because the light would not allow that. It's specifically for previously prepared materials.
Okay, who wrote the definition of light? Did you do it? Or
I did not.
They're accepted industry definitions, in other words?
I don't know when this was added to the UDO. I assume when the UDO was created, at least in 2013, if not earlier than that.
Okay, so if we added the words processed and unprocessed to the light manufacturing, then that would allow, I think we're there, aren't we?
Let me,
Because
so,
you want to not be able to tell from the outside that they're doing manufacturing. It should look like an office building, and no trucks. And I don't know what that thing about loading docks was, but I don't want to see them either. So that's just that's not really directly related to this, but I'm just saying it since it's my turn to talk.
Okay, I agree. So both those definitions are about this long. Let me look at them, mess with them, and bring it back next time. And I think we can find something better for both of them anyways. And I think that change you recommended makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So.
Well, then I've done, my work here is done. Next.
I'll go, and then Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson. I'm generally supportive of trying to realize the vision that was shared with the residents and that they shared back with us of McCrimmon, and I don't think that they were envisioning kind of what we see over by the airport, further down aviation, for example. I think that we're looking for, and airport, we're looking for more office buildings and things that don't have the noise and the glare and the odors. So whatever gets us there, I think is where we want to be. So good luck with that. Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson.
So it seems like we're trying to design criteria without really knowing what is required of a data center to have backups. There might be more regulations around the longevity of how, like 7 days, 10 days, certain criteria, and you need certain kinds of equipment to meet those standards, and we're designing code changes without really understanding the impact of that language on the capability of that business even to open its door.
But data centers aren't manufacturing anything.
I'm just saying, it's an example. Because Council Member Garamella talked about AT&T and the data center and so forth. So when we look at manufacturing, if somebody offers a refrigerated product, there's potential temperature exposure during a hurricane, during some sort of business interruption with, outage of power. There might be some protocols in place required for that business, light manufacturing of that refrigerated product. So we need to think a little bit and not be as onerous on, you can't have a certain kind of electric, or maybe we do understand that a certain maximum electric power source, would not be allowed. I understand the need to not have trucks going in and out 24/7, but trucks supply goods. It supplies food. To the mixed use. It would supply different, things. So not having loading docks might not have the intended effect that you want. You still need to resupply goods to those areas for, different purposes. So let's see what Chris comes back with, but I would not want to completely eliminate things without realizing, that we're doing it. A little bit of caution.
So can I ask one point of clarification? So these generators, I know the ones you're talking about, they have to be lifted out with a crane often. Are they outside in parking lots? And if so, would that be the concern more than just having them on site? And if we could design some development standard in which they have to be located in a building somehow?
Well, the ones I'm familiar with, they are outside, just outside of the plant, and they are usually in a building itself, like a
right,
like a Butler building kind of thing.
Right. In RTP, where they do manufacturing, they would have like a power building, and that would have the generators to support the equipment that would be needing higher stream of power over us, than the power supply could.
It's just a matter of how much of that do we want.
I can give you a tour if you want. I can show you both the options, one in the parking lot and also the one inside, which is like a closed building, but they have to turn it on twice a year to ensure it's working.
Yeah, I think a picture that kind of describes where it is in the parking lot would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So thank you for bringing that up. We don't want to end up with something being built by right that we're not really happy with and doesn't meet our vision. Okay. Mr. Lawson, how are you doing?
Doing great. Let's go. 3 more hours. No, that's all I had for tonight. If I think I've got some good direction, I'll type up some options and come back July 13th.
Yep, we're looking at the 13th. We talked a lot. We threw a lot of things out there. Do we want to leave the public hearing open, knowing that if we get some substantial comments, we probably won't be voting on the 13th? Does that sound reasonable? So I'd entertain a motion to keep it open.
Make a motion to keep the public hearing open.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to keep the public hearing open through the 13th at least. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries unanimously. We're going to leave that open. And just to remind people, if they've already given a public hearing comment on this issue, they shouldn't individually do that, but there's ways to make sure that we hear from them directly to the town council or whatever. So we want to keep on hearing input from our stakeholders. I think it's 8:18. I think this is a good time for a 10-minute break. So why don't we go ahead and come back at 8:30, please.
Mayor, a reminder that the fire truck is out front for council members to look at during the break.
Okay, so let's say 8:32. Come back at 8:32. Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Great job. Okay, town clerk. Okay. Thank you. We had a nice time seeing something outside. There is one new item on tonight's agenda, a resolution approving the Connect Morrisville Strategic Plan Update. Harold L. Hudson, Strategic Performance Manager, will facilitate the item.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for spending some time with me this evening as we approach the end of our Connect Morrisville Strategic Plan update. Very quickly tonight, whoops, one too many fast. I will recap with you how we've reached this important milestone in our update process. I'll give you some high-level key components and future highlights to come in our update. We'll spend the bulk of our time with council sharing and discussing any final draft language within each goal, then wrap up with a check-in on our process timeline. If council will hold your questions until the discussion portion, I'll move through my first few slides pretty quickly. As you recall, we've been working towards this update for a while, so let's look back really briefly at how this process has developed. Roughly 9 months of work and collaboration have brought us here today. Our original Connect Morrisville strategic plan was adopted by Town Council in 2018, following a year-long collaborative engagement process with staff, council, and this community. Early last year, we knew that we wanted to begin revising our plan, but COVID took us all on another journey, and our original timeline for updating had to shift just a bit. Last fall, we met, and council provided staff direction to proceed with updating plan objectives, initiatives, and outcome measures. This spring, we really kicked our process into high gear. We received input from council at 2 critical points, both before and after our public engagement process. We were very pleased with the public's response to provide feedback in a remote environment. We've shared all the compiled feedback with our department head staff, and they helped us to further refine and define plan language. And our final draft is now ready for presentation to council this evening, a total compilation of the full process. You're going to see updates sort of in 2 categories tonight. High-level components will be featured in the next 2 slides, and then a showcase of individual goals that will provide a more detailed sense of the revisions. So when we initially started this process, a couple of our really big goals were to consolidate and streamline. We consolidated like items within specific goals, as well as eliminated repetitive items that were within more than one goal. Now, we certainly know and understand that there can be focus areas that appear more than once in the plan, but maintaining that same or similar language in different areas really creates confusion, and that was a consistent point of feedback that we've received throughout this process. We made really strong efforts with our objectives and initiatives to remove specificity. We don't want those items to be so specific that in the next 1 to 2 years they've become outdated, or we become narrowed into an element that isn't able to grow organically. We aimed for outcome measures that were applicable to Morrisville, reflective of the work that we're doing, responsible for, directly contributing to, or impacting. There's lots of great metrics that are useful to us, but not that we're necessarily responsible for. We can always point to or utilize other data sources as needed to support our work here. The new items column on the right side really encompasses the feedback and input that we've received from the community, staff, and council. We'll cover these a little more in depth when we discuss our individual goals, but I really just want to hit some of the high points. Diversity and inclusion. We know there's a lot of work to be done on this front. We're certainly aware of that, but it's a really great place for us to start in this plan. Small business focus stems from the impacts that small businesses have here locally and around us, lessons that we've learned during the last year and a half, and even before that time, and this was a missing focus area in our plan. Sustainability was another missing focus area of the strategic plan, and an important component to the Morrisville community as evidenced by the feedback that we received. Affordable and workforce housing exist currently as plans and strategies accessible to Morrisville, and we're able to reference those and start to take steps towards those initiatives. For public safety, we've really expanded it to reflect a more holistic approach, including all contributing town departments, not just police and fire as was historically included or thought of. And our view expanded also to consider what happens before, during, and after an emergency, the components of public safety preparedness and response, as well as all affected areas of the community, businesses, homes, neighborhoods, and mental health. We've enhanced our community engagement efforts to better understand understand the desires and needs of our community, how we can most effectively communicate with them, and then respond and develop programming that is reflective of those expressed needs. We've added a ton of project types, examples, references that are really reflective of elements to show further clarity in those areas and really begins to define how we can tackle some of our goals in this plan. Here you see some of the elements to come where we can really more fully bring our plan to life. Previously, our briefing alignment only existed for action items. That process is going to be restructured, and we'll be showcasing alignment for all items coming before council. Our department business strategy plans will be revised to reflect current department goals and their alignment to the updated plan. Morrisville Pro will be updated following council adoption in July and will archive our current plan information so that we can still access and reflect on that as needed. In talking with and reviewing other agencies' information, I really saw a lot of features that might be helpful to us here in Morrisville. One of the things we're going to be adding is a reference document. We're going to have the ability to pull out even more detail from this plan, further streamline that main plan document. That reference document is also going to be able to contain hyperlinks, specific project sites, plan documents, other similar elements, so we can really sort of expand that base of knowledge. We'll also be adding a glossary with some of those terms that we here in local government are very familiar with, but others outside of local government may not be as aware of. While our current format has certainly served its purpose, we really want to be able to better illustrate the alignment that we've worked to achieve within this updated plan. So we're going to be reworking the format a little bit. Working with communications staff and their summer intern, and we're going to be able to showcase that and share with you sort of some of our updated design at your July 13th meeting. So lots to show you there. Our final format is going to give the plan better structure, including these new and updated elements. We're also going to be able to showcase what our plan time frame is. I believe the 3 years is sort of what staff recommended based on feedback from council. It's not a pigeonhole timeline. It doesn't mean things have to be accomplished in that time frame, but it does give us a structure to work within, plan, and establish our departmentally aligned goals. So at this time, I am going to start going through each of our goals one by one. That's sort of what we'll spend the rest of our time doing this evening. The main points of change are noted on the right-hand side of each slide. I've not included the red line language on these slides because for many of them, there was not a drastic difference from what you saw in the April 27th presentation. A lot of them just slight tweaks to the verbiage. Really felt it was more productive to showcase the final draft language and just highlight those changes with you. The full red line is included in your packet as attachment 2. So as I get started, please feel free to share any additional thoughts, considerations with each goal that you might like staff to consider in the final plan language. So we'll start with goal number 1. Within our objectives, we have not changed any of the focus areas that were noted on April 27th. We did move traffic management to be a separate standalone objective. For our initiatives, this is really where you start to see some of that project examples, associated known timelines, really a focus on how we can set priorities in our current framework that's showcased in Initiative 1.1. Again, taking out some of that specificity from the initiative itself and pulling it into some of that reference. And we've identified additional traffic management options in Initiative 1.3. In our outcome measures, much more refined and defined to be associated with the objectives and initiatives that they are aligned with. We've removed outcome measures that are being captured at the department level for the organization just to eliminate that duplicate effort. Measures were defined to help us learn how pedestrian infrastructure is being used, the level of community satisfaction with mobility options, projects that are able to be completed, or funding sources for transportation infrastructure. We have maintained language that we know we need to work to define and capture because it's going to be valuable to us here in this organization, and that's outcome measure 1.3. So happy to hear any additional thoughts you might have.
I don't see any questions on this goal. Thank you.
All right. Okay, for goal number 2. So again, did not change our objective focus areas. We did move sustainability to become a standalone objective. That was based on both council and department head feedback. That was pretty strong feedback that we heard. We did begin noting here how some of our other town documents and processes can really help to facilitate and move our objectives forward. With our initiatives, again, we've aligned with some of those project examples. This is also the first time in our plan that we've specifically identified affordable and workforce housing and sustainability. With our outcome measures, similarly, first time we've identified workforce housing, affordable or workforce housing, and sustainability measures. We really just want to be able to understand and learn the impact of what our new objectives and initiatives might be able to provide for us here in Morrisville.
I think we're liking what you're doing so far. Keep it up.
All right. Goal number 3. Our focus areas here, same thing. We have not changed those from the April 27th meeting. We did add an objective that is to validate our community interests and needs. That's really sort of where we started with the thought of two-way communication. We want to not only share with the community, we also want to hear from them. So really enhancing that. Inclusion and diversity begins here. We've expanded objective 3.3 to note both community and staff environments that are welcoming, inclusive of all diverse populations. With our initiatives, again, reinforcing that two-way community engagement with initiative 3.1, expanding opportunities that we can use to provide information, listing a host of options and resources that we have in initiative 3.2. Diversity and inclusion efforts continue here in initiative 3.3. Again, outcome measures associated to reflect the objectives and initiatives, really a focus on community interaction, level of satisfaction, and enhanced programming.
Okay.
All right. Goal number 4, focus areas remain the same. We've enhanced this goal again with expansion to all town departments involved in public safety, really showcasing the role that multiple departments play in these efforts. With our initiatives, we've continued with that public safety operational scope, noting some of the tools that can be used to facilitate operational preparedness and service delivery in Initiative 4.1. In Initiative 4.2, we've continued again with some different examples and expanded to include some of those resource groups that may be involved before, during, or after emergency situations. With outcome measures, we removed again some of those that are being captured at the department level for the organization so as not to duplicate, and further refined those to reflect our associated initiatives and objectives.
Okay.
Next to last one, goal number 5. The 3 focus areas of our objectives remain the same. This is really a time to focus on management of our resources, management of staff, and how to most effectively provide our services. The CIP focus is defined here. We modified language in 5.2 to showcase our commitment to professionalism, employee engagement, and development. We had previously stated that it would be enhanced. We felt that commitment to that was much more effective language than trying to enhance and determine what that meant. With our initiatives, we really began to define how we might accomplish some of our objectives with these examples and sample processes in Initiative 5.1. We've expanded and further defined professionalism and employee engagement. Diversity and inclusion is also referenced here in Initiative 5.2. Multiple efforts are noted to enhance efficiency and productivity for town processes and service delivery in Initiative 5.3. For our outcome measures, We have fully defined and refined these to be more reflective of the organization. New outcome measure 1.1A, associated with maintenance and replacement, planning and measuring sustainability of town assets. Adjusted language in outcome measure 5.2 to read through employee outreach efforts, removing specificity and allowing for a broader pool of opportunities to engage. Any thoughts on goal number 5?
We all appear satisfied.
All right, last goal. For goal number 6, focus areas for objectives remain the same. We really were able to streamline and consolidate previously existing language here, so not a lot that we had to modify. With our initiatives, again, started to really be able to define how we would be able to best accomplish and meet some of our goals and objectives. We have noted how Morrisville really plays a role in this element in Initiative 6.1. There's a focus on workforce needs and how those can be met, a first-time reference to small business in Initiative 6.2. We have refreshed the focus on public school needs, removing the specificity of Wake County Public School System, both in our objective and initiative. The language for Initiative 6.3 reads to advocate with community schools. It previously read work collaboratively with. We think that really reinforces council and staff as a partner in support of local school needs. With our outcome measures, we removed those that were reflective of outside info and not necessarily Morrisville influenced or Morrisville responsibilities. Outcome measure 6.2B is a focus on small business aid. And we reworded the education level measure, which is 6.2A, to be reflective of community workforce needs in general. It previously referenced a specific level of education. We know that we can obtain and provide broader data as needed in partner with economic development opportunities because that information is readily available to us. But this was reflective of council input and also some staff input as well. Happy to answer any questions on this goal.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
On not this one, the 4.1, if you can take me there.
Goal number 4?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in this or the one before that where, yeah, I wanted to see a section where we address new homeowners or new residents who come into Morrisville, with the same amount of data, like if it's a new business, right? Is there any section or on our website that can help them guide through it, like, what is available from our parks and recs, from the businesses or, the schoolings and just like, who the public utilities are. I'm just trying to, because I remember when we came first to our neighborhood, there was, a lady who came in with all these welcome packets and all those things, but I don't know if it's still continued or not, but nevertheless, I wanted to see if there's a one-shop website, like where they can just go and say, you're new, okay, there's a senior center that we have. These are the programs that we do for all categories summed up in one page.
So I know that there was a new resident packet. I won't speak to that myself because I believe that falls under communications. I'm seeing all of them nod their heads, so I'll refer to one of them.
We have an A to Z guide that's on the website that we keep updated. We also have on the website information for new residents that's available.
So does it go categorically, like all the services open for?
It has utilities, electric, natural gas, and then the A to Z guide covers really just the full gamut of Morrisville and all things a new person would need to know about.
Awesome. I did not know. Can I get a link?
We can get you a copy.
I would be happy because it's been like people ask me questions and I don't have answers. So that would be good.
Yes. I knew there was something. I saw Councilmember Rao. Yeah.
Excuse me. 2 questions. Just to follow up on Councilmember Garamella's point, I'd like to see that link as well. I think that because economic development is a separate strategic goal of ours, I think that the chamber's traditionally been our partner, but I think we do need to make sure that we have a centralized site, because I've been actually looking, we're looking at the Fiscal Recovery Office and, the ARP funds for small business recovery, but having a portal, or, maybe it's in the link, but just a place where people can go, existing businesses, and where can I go get grant money? Where can I get funding to get, after the pandemic recovery money? Or just basic resources in terms of senior centers, amenities. Maybe it's in the link, but I think we should work with the chamber to make sure that we're doing that, or eventually if we ever decide to bring our economic development in-house, or have some of that work being done by our staff one day. That's a thought. The second one I have a question is, Aaron, I sent the council, but I sent you the League of Municipalities task force on race and equity. And I just was curious as the process of, as we look at these initiatives that we want to incorporate, how would that work? Would we have the staff look at where it fits in the plan and then make recommendations if we wanted programming to go to the Parks and Rec department? One idea, I'll just give you an example, and the good news is now one of my comments will be gone, but on the Juneteenth events, one of the ideas that I had was that, and I wasn't there for the event, but we have a museum here, a history museum, but as we look at developing our town center, having a central place where people can come and celebrate the history, where we have continued lectures during the course of the year to provide Morrisville a very unique kind of place, sort of like what the city of Raleigh does with their museum. But this museum would focus on history. So where would that fit into the inclusive goal? And then what would the process be if we had those ideas, in terms of implementing them?
Yes, so thank you, Councilmember Rao. Did receive that information, and because, again, this is the first time we have included diversity and inclusion in our overall strategic plan, and we, again, know that we have work to do as an organization as to how we may start including those types of efforts and initiatives here. So that's why we sort of kept it a little more broad in our plan this time. We don't want to put the cart before the horse, if I can say that. We don't want to say we're going to start doing X, Y, and Z towards this effort, because we haven't really sort of gotten to that point yet, if I am able to say that.
No, that's fine. I would just like you to study that as a staff of it, just observe it, and then maybe just brainstorm of ideas of where some of those recommendations from the NCLM task force can be put into the strategic goal, right? I don't know. I understand it's cart before the horse, but just as something big picture that we can think about.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else for Goal 6 or any of the goals? I think we're very appreciative of all the hard work. We created this a number of years ago, and staff really attacked it this time and brought it to us in April and took our feedback. And I think this is a really great document now that will really help us move into the future as strongly as we've gotten here. Anyone else want to say anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your help.
Thank you. So we'll be back before you again at the July 13th meeting. As I mentioned, we'll have the final draft, if you will, that night. We'll also share that sort of reformatted design with you. But I also can't leave the meeting before I ask Town Manager Page if she has any thoughts or comments that she would like to share at this time.
I just want to thank all of you for being engaged in the process. When we had our department head meeting that Aaron facilitated, I think we could all tell you we were very engaged and excited about the process, and we built on each other's comments, and I felt that council did that same. So I think it's really helped put this together better the second time around. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Now at item 14, future meetings, events, and citizen involvement opportunities. Every Saturday, our Healthy Food Hub hosts the Western Wake Farmers Market, who are now operating under their summer hours. I think yesterday was the first full day of summer. 8 a.m. until noon every Saturday on Town Hall Drive. And exciting news, you don't have to wait until July 4th to celebrate Independence Day in Morrisville. Join us on Saturday, July 3rd from 4 till 9 p.m. for Morrisville's Family Fun Festival. The event will be held on Town Hall Drive with a more extensive family-oriented event than in previous years. It will include live entertainment, magic shows, 10 food trucks, stilt walkers, roving entertainment, face painters, family-friendly games, prize giveaways, small business representation, and displays with information and updates on town projects. So we hope to see everyone there. Town offices will be closed on Monday, July 5th. In observance of the Independence Day holiday, solid waste and recycling pickup will not be affected. And our third monthly pop-up dog park will be Sunday, July 11th. Please see our website or social media to register your pet for a 1-hour time slot. For a full listing of events, please see the town calendar at www.townofmorrisville.org. Item 15, we are now at item 15, council comments. I'll now recognize Councilmember Garamella, followed by Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
It's hard to start first, but I'll try. I think, I guess everyone will have the same comment, but it was a fabulous Juneteenth event. Thanks to staff, and especially it was very, very hot, but it was well received. And I think, I don't know who it was, Anne, who said, when the parking lot is full, it gives some message, and that was exactly what happened there. And since it was very hot, I took an opportunity to get into the cool zone and donated blood, and which felt good. There was no lines, and that is one of the things. And I came to know there's a huge shortage of blood. So anyone who wants to give 600 calories, what they said, I lost, which is fine. Go ahead and donate blood. It is much needed at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would like to echo my thanks and appreciation for the Juneteenth event last Saturday. It was very interesting. We had great speakers. Not only did we have a blood drive, vaccine clinic, but we had speakers share with us the history of not only the holiday, but as it relates to our Shiloh community. And that was really impactful for me. Esther Dunnigan shared how the streets in the town got their names and the various individuals that they were named after. McCrimmon, Green, there was all these, Barbie, there was, and Church Street even has history behind it. So just understanding how everything really, came together, and understanding more about how we can think about the future as well as the past. That was very impactful. So I really appreciate everyone that put that together, and our speakers were just amazing. And now looking to the future, I believe we do have an exciting event the weekend of July 3rd and 4th with the USA Women's Cricket Regional Tournament. And this is a big deal. We have several regional teams in different states coming to Morrisville to play. So I know that Mayor Pro Tem Johnson also wants to share some information, but this is a really nice opportunity, and more information will become available shortly. So thank you.
Okay. I also want to thank staff, vendors, organizations, and all the attendees for making our first Juneteenth such a special day. I'd like to also thank you to our fire rescue, who conducted a bike rodeo that day. Had some really good attendance and some smiling kids with new helmets. Thank you also to the Parks and Rec, Travis and Shabo, for International Day of Yoga yesterday afternoon at Morrisville Community Park. Always brings a smile. It was a good crowd, and it's always a nice thing to spend time with people outdoors again. Lots of smiling faces. So we're looking forward to lots more Parks and Rec programming as we move forward and open up some more. Councilmember Rabati, followed by Councilmember Fender, please.
Thank you. I want to echo that the Juneteenth celebration was amazing. I enjoyed it, and I learned so much. I'd like to thank Christy Familari and the entire committee that helped to put that together. If anything, I think that the attendance at the event underscored the fact that understanding and taking into account the Black experience in Morrisville is not a one-day endeavor. That's something that we all can educate ourselves and learn about. The library has some great resources. It was great to see the number of Black-owned businesses that were out there getting visibility. And Esther Dunnigan, man, Esther telling stories that she heard from her grandmother, her aunts, her family about how things were before Shiloh was Shiloh, when it was just a group of free people of color. Here certainly before I ever even knew this was a place. And not to discount the small talks with, I could only attend one, which was with Police Chief Patrice Andrews, but who is also a treasure. But it was really meaningful for me to hear people say that after they talked with her, they felt better about law enforcement in Morrisville. It was something that had been on their minds. They had been worried about. And, just hearing that was valuable to me. So thank you to everyone involved with that event. And I'm so glad that Randy Little's on board. I'm just excited about that. Okay, and that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Fender, followed by Councilmember Rao, please.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. Like the others, I wanted to thank the staff for putting on our first Juneteenth celebration, and thank the residents and Black business owners for coming out as well. And I also particularly enjoyed Esther Dunnigan's presentation and learning about the history of the Shiloh community. I'd learned some of the history from the plaques that our town has put out along the Indian Creek. No, it's not the Indian Creek, the Shiloh Greenway. But it was just extremely interesting hearing the history from Esther. My second comment is, I was really excited earlier today attending our Flip the Switch event of the town's first solar panel array on the fire station number 1. That is a kind of like how Smart City Initiatives are Steve's babies. So solar panels are my baby. And today is my birthday, so it was like having a big birthday present. But we'll say, it didn't happen, in any way, shape, or form because of me. It happened because of the staff and putting that project together and actually, getting it done. So it was really cool seeing it come to fruition. And lastly, we have a family in our community that lost their house this weekend due to a home fire. The Kellys, they lived in Providence Place, and there is a GoFundMe site set up, and I have the link on Morrisville Moms and in the Kitts Creek neighborhood right now. I believe it's on the Breckenridge Neighborhood's Facebook page too. I can get it on my Town of Morrisville Facebook page. But it was a family of 7, 5 kids, 9-month-old baby, and they just moved in and they completely lost their house. So find my Facebook site, go to the GoFundMe site if you are willing and able to donate. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Rao, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, please.
Well, first of all, happy birthday to Councilmember Fender. That was going to be my first comment. Just a couple of administrative things and just 2 things. First of all, I just wanted staff to take a look at the median between Morrisville Carpenter and McCrimmon Parkway. There's some weeds that are, it's at the Davis Drive intersection of McCrimmon Parkway. I've gotten a few calls about it. I need to drive out there, but apparently the weeds are a few feet tall, and I just would like to get a sense of whether we could contact DOT, because most of that area is in Morrisville, and it doesn't look very good. So whatever our options are there. I want to thank Bob Butler for raising the confusion about the smart shuttle stop at Leecroft Way and Gratiot where I live. There still seems to be some confusion on this, so whatever we can do to get the message out through our platforms to let the community know that they're smaller buses. But thank you, Brandon, for clarifying that to the council. Sorry I couldn't make the Juneteenth event, but I heard it was great, and I think history is one of our greatest things in Morrisville, so we can leverage it better. Solar event was wonderful, and just want to thank all the partners who made it happen. And you know, we saw smart cities at work, and just for those that serve on the Smart City Advisory Committee, there's a IoT Summit. They call it IoT Slam Thursday, and you can go to iotslam.com. It's a virtual event. It's a really, really good event, so please go and learn about the different things we should be looking at in Morrisville. And then finally, I want to congratulate Martha Page is no longer the only female manager in Wake County. She has company now, and want to congratulate Katie Crosby, who becomes the first female town manager in Apex and the first black woman to be a town manager. And then also congrats to Estella Patterson for being named Raleigh's police chief. So that's all I have. Thanks for a good meeting so far.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
So, as Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson mentioned, the USA Cricket Women's Regionals will be held here in Morrisville July 2nd through July 5th. We don't have a schedule yet from them, but as soon as we do, we'll certainly share that on our social media accounts so the public can come out. Obviously, we love to support our cricket here in Morrisville, but when it's a women's cricket league, that holds a very special place, at least in my heart. So, so I'll be out there July 2nd through July 5th at one time or another. I unfortunately missed the Juneteenth event, which, as most of you who know me for many years know, that was like devastating to me. I do not miss Morrisville events. They are very important to me, and they are high in my priority. Unfortunately, I was recovering from pneumonia, and I had every intention of being there Saturday morning. And I thought, this medicine will kick in. I'm good. Well, of course, I could not be there Saturday morning. So I want to thank Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson for reading my remarks for me. I had thought of some words that I really did want to share with the crowd, and since I couldn't be there, she read them for me, and I know she did a fabulous job, so I thank her for that. And then the last thing I'm going to say is we all won't be back together again until July 13th here in Council Chambers, so I want to wish everybody a very, very happy 4th of July, and wish our staff the best, and I hope you all take some time to relax and spend really important time with family. So happy 4th of July.
Indeed, and a happy birthday to our Councilmember Fender to my left, which is great. At this point, Town Manager Page, do you or staff have any comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have one closed session this evening to discuss matters relating to economic development and to discuss real property acquisition. Before we do that, we'd like to thank you all for watching this meeting of the Morrisville Town Council. We hope you plan to join us again. Please feel free to email your Town Council members at towncouncil@townofmorrisville.org or visit www.townofmorrisville.org/council for additional contact information. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to enter into closed session.
Mayor, I'm going to move to go into closed session. Before I do, I did want to thank Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson for reading her comments at the event. I forgot to thank her. Basically, I want to move us into closed session pursuant to North Carolina Statute 143.318.11A4 and A5. I move that we go into closed session for the purposes of discussing an economic development matter and also for the purposes of discussing real property acquisition matter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of going to closed session at this time, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. We are in closed session, 7-0. It is 9:15 p.m. We're going to take a 5-minute break at this time. The live meeting broadcast will now end. So thank you all very much.